The meeting of the Board of Aldermen for work session of August the 11th, 2026 shall come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Oops. Oh. Are we not ready over there, please? I'm sorry. Okay, start over.
We're good.
Okay. The meeting of the Board of Aldermen of Bolivar, Missouri, work session for Tuesday, August the 11th, 2026 shall come to order, please. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Sawyer.
Present.
Price.
Here.
Neal.
Present.
Ballard.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Sagasser.
Here.
Wilson.
Present.
Here.
With we have 8 present, which constitutes a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm entertaining a motion to adopt an amended agenda to include a request of a citizen to address the board and to include section 720 to the discussion of item 12, which is chapter 700.
So move.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes opposed say no. The ayes have it. We have amended the agenda to include those 2 items. So I think that that as by custom, we will have the citizen step forward for the citizen request. No, that's not that citizen. That'll be for another day, Mr. Cooper.
Not tonight?
Not tonight.
No, I was going to speak about other things. That's why I said I wanted to be on the list.
Well, it's too late. That'll have to be for the next meeting.
But I wanted to be on tonight's list.
That'll have to be for the next meeting, sir. But we have another. There's we have an amended policy, sir, that have a timetable to request a permission to speak and a form to fill out. It's just to make it orderly. So if you will if you come by the office and speak to the city clerk, we will entertain anything you have to say to us. But it is conforming with the policies of the board that have been adopted and voted on by the board. So I think that there is another citizen who wishes to make a request.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Mr. Cooper, but we do have a policy and procedure that have been voted on and approved.
I good, Mr. Mayor?
Name and address, please, sir.
All right, Tanner William Eisenberger, 4347 South 165th Road. I am here tonight, not on my own behalf, but on the behalf of the Bolivar Elks Lodge, number 2828. A little bit about us. We're a local 501c3 charitable organization whose mission is to serve and help veterans and children in our local communities. We have a new board now that is really focused on these goals, and part of that is this Saturday we want to invite all city employees and their families and elected officials and their families to our Family Fun Day that we will be hosting at the Elks Lodge from noon to 4. We will be having free food, free games, and free bounce houses for any kids. The one request we do have of the city that we humbly ask, and we know this is short notice, but the Elks does have a drug awareness program catered towards kids, and we will be passing out information that day to all the families that stop by. And if any police officers, firefighters, or elected officials would be willing to join us at any point in that time, we just wanted to extend that invitation to you guys. And please just ask you if any of you would kindly join us. Any questions I can answer?
And you were requesting if there could be a police presence for?
Yes, police presence, fire department, or elected officials. Just any. We would just appreciate your guys' support. We think this is a good event and just keeping kids off drugs.
I presume that you have presented this measure to the chief.
I'm going to talk to the chief after this, now that you just told me to talk to the chief. So, but I wanted to bring it to you guys first.
Well, I can assume, I shouldn't assume, you know, if that happens, you do that it would be favorable to the board. I don't know if it requires a vote or just kind of a wink and nod, or if you want to wait for the chief to rule on this. Any sentiments from the board? Go ahead, please.
I think it's a great idea. I appreciate you guys doing stuff for the community. You know, it makes Bolivar so special as we have a really big community outreach with our businesses and so on. My only concern would be, again, the fire department and the police department, if they can make it work. You know, I think that would be great.
And we know this is short notice, and we do apologize. And so, just next year, I promise I will not be here the Tuesday before Family Fun Day. I will be here in plenty of advance.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
My only question would be if it's a special event application, if that needs to be filled out or anything like that.
It's not. We don't need you to shut down any roads or anything. It will take place on our property, and we're right across from the new 911 dispatch.
Awesome. I yield my time to all of you.
Yes, right, okay.
I was just going to say, I think these sorts of events, typically that's fallen within the discretion, to my knowledge, when fire and PD have gone around and done different community events, that's been handled by them without input from the board. And
Sure.
I personally don't feel that we need to have input. That we can see the positive reception that you've gotten from us, but we'll leave that. I would prefer to leave it to our capable chiefs to make that determination about how best to use their time and resources.
I take it that would be the general sentiment for the board.
All right. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. And if any of you can come out Saturday, we'd love to see you guys. Thank you. You guys have a good day.
That's it. Eisenberger is there?
Yes,
Mr. Name? Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we'll move on to item 1. I'm sure we can dispatch this judiciously, don't you think? Mr. Relford, I will let you open the discussion of the flock termination and source of funding for reimbursement
Yes, sir.
of Missouri Blue Shield Grant Program.
So, obviously the last meeting, the board's, direction was to begin measures to terminate the contract. We have done this. You'll see Chief Johns has reached out to Flock, and you'll see a work order in here that shows that we've asked for the equipment to be removed. I can't tell you what the time frame is for that. I would think it's going to take several weeks to get that accomplished, but again, that's totally up to Flock. I've also asked Mr. Brown to draft a letter, and we have that we're prepared with the board's approval to send to Flock, basically outlining some of our conditions and things that we're asking for as far as the termination of the contract. I think everybody has a copy of that letter.
So a couple questions.
Go ahead, Alderman Ross.
Don, from looking at that contract, does it say when the contract started? Because it was signed in August of 2025, but the first cameras weren't put up or utilized until I think what we were told is June of this year. So everything I looked at on the contract reference like the order date, which would have been, I think they signed August 27th or August 29th of last year.
Right.
So would that be your interpretation that the contract, we're a year into the contract?
We're a year into the contract, but my understanding was that the term didn't start until the cameras got operational.
That's my understanding.
Okay, so,
One operational or all operational?
I think one would do it.
and that one wasn't until June of this year?
Yeah.
Okay. That was my question, is if, the contract was signed in August, are we a year into the contract? And if so, we've paid for a year, do we have to pay back the year that we've already been under contract with?
Yeah, I mean, whatever we've already paid in is not coming back.
Yeah.
Is the status of the situation then that we have notified them with the draft that we received, and are awaiting a response?
No, we are awaiting, or I am awaiting final board approval to
The draft.
hit the button to terminate, and we will send that letter out first thing in the morning that you guys have in your packet, unless you want to see changes.
Don, is there any way that we feel that they have violated the contract based on changing terms of agreement and such?
No, I mean, I'm not sure I know they have the right to change terms. I don't know that they have, but either way, no, that wouldn't be a breach.
Okay.
And it's extremely typical in these technology contracts nowadays. You can't get away from it because I literally look at hundreds of them from my work with other clients, but they will essentially give you an order form and tell you that your contract is subject to terms and conditions found online. You'll get a link, and then those terms and conditions are extremely one-sided.
Okay. Thank you for
So,
confirming.
so in this letter, is it okay if I ask questions on it? I mean, I don't know if
Yes, sir.
everybody. Okay. You know, the city intends to place covers or bags over the camera so that residents and city staff can confirm that the system is no longer capturing information. So I know that that was an option. Other cities are doing it. You think that's something that we can definitely do and be?
No. Actually, the contract itself says that we are not to disrupt or alter the cameras in any way, shape, or form. I know that we've had discussions about limiting the view of the cameras pending removal. And so what we're doing is just putting the ball in Flock's court by telling them what we intend to do, telling them that if they don't object to it, we're going to assume that it's okay.
But if they object to it, we're not going to.
Well, I'll come back and talk to you guys about it, but the contract is pretty clear about what we can and can't do.
So
Now the question is, does placing a plastic bag over a camera so that it can't see technically alter or do anything to it? I don't know. I don't know that Flock is going to choose the population of Bolivar to draw a line in the sand and find out, especially when they've been paid and really all they have to do is walk away. I don't know the answer to any of that. Hence the way we drafted the letter to put the ball in their court to see what they're going to say.
But if we drafted this and say that and put the ball in their court and they don't respond for say 2 weeks before we meet again, then that's 2 weeks worth of cameras are still up, citizens' concerns are still there as far as the information goes and things like that. So.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do, in my opinion. Now, the city will do whatever the board directs, but.
Yeah, would it be at all feasible and would it violate the contract to erect, say, a big placard directly in the line of sight of a camera making no, I'm not kidding. Like if they're going to push back on covering it with it, like we can make it so that all they see is a big smiley face and that's it at every camera. Would that be?
I don't know. We can find out.
I mean, I'm saying based on your read of the contract, is there anything that says we will not obstruct the view of the camera or just that we won't mess with the actual physical?
My understanding
itself.
is the actual physical camera itself.
So if we have trouble getting the bags covered, we can decide what the cameras see. If it comes to that, and I don't know that, like you said, I don't know that it will. Well, that's fine.
I mean,
whatever you want it to be.
I personally would like my personal opinion, and after discussion, I wouldn't mind making this motion of I would like to cover the cameras and see what Flock says if we do. I mean, my thing is if they say, well, the contract says we've already paid the contract. I mean, they've already gotten the money for it. What are they going to say? Well, you guys have violated the contract. We've already terminated the contract, or we're going to terminate the contract, early. So I don't know what covering them, and I'm assuming from the other cities that have done it, and Flock hasn't done anything with it yet, that there's kind of a precedence that's set for it. And I think to your point, you're 100% correct. Do they really want to draw the line in the sand for the city of Bolivar to say, well, you covered them, but I think Dayton, Ohio was one of them. They did, and we're not doing anything, with them. So, my intentions tonight is I'm very much prepared after discussion, everybody has everything, to make a motion to send them this letter, but I also want to cover the cameras tomorrow.
Well, the letter says within 10 days, so we would need to change.
Yeah, I would change that. effective immediately, we're going to cover the cameras until they come get them.
Mr. Wilson, did I gather that you wanted to make a comment?
I did, but kind of Alderman Ross kind of hit on that.
Okay.
Looking at the the last, it's like the last paragraph. I'm just curious if we could put a time frame in there, but if you know.
Well, Counselor, what
Beyond
are
the
your feelings
10-day
about
period?
that message?
depending on their retrieval of equipment.
If that's the board's instructions, I'm happy to do it.
Alderman Wright.
And this is just a silly question, Don. I assume all of the bracketed information will be replaced with actual correct,
Oh,
like where it
yeah,
says
yes,
bracketed street address, bracketed term expiration date, bracketed all of that stuff.
Yes.
Because I just, when you said you were going to go ahead and hit send, it just made me a little bit nervous. So as long as all that's going to be updated to reflect what would go in the brackets.
Oh, of course, of course.
So, I mean, if we're good, I would make a motion to send this letter to Flock, but I would like to change the term on us covering them to covering them immediately, which would constitute tomorrow, and then direct staff to cover them tomorrow until Flock comes and gets them.
I have an issue with that personally.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
I personally have an issue from an ethical standpoint, breaking a contract and directing my staff to do that. So I would prefer not to do that, and I probably would refuse to do that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you
Well, I
can
mean, that
you can
might
hold
be
me
some-
accountable, but
That might be something we talk about in executive, but there's a motion in a second, so.
I'd rather go about and do it the right way, as Mr. Brown suggested.
How, can I ask, I know there's a motion in a second, how much would be involved in blocking the view without, like how much work could that be done tomorrow? Like putting something in front
Sure,
of it?
anything could be done if we tell our staff to do it. I mean, we
I'm
have
just
the
wondering if that
equipment
would
to do
be,
it.
if that would accomplish the same thing and not put our staff in the position of having to choose whether to follow a directive of this board or compromise their convictions, and if it would accomplish the same thing. I'm just wondering if that would be a possibility. I know it's more expensive, I know it takes more time
You
than a
could
garbage
hire out a
bag.
company to do it as well if you wanted to.
And do you feel comfortable with that solution?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I
Even
do
though,
not. I'm sorry, I don't.
even though Don had said that he doesn't think that it would violate the contract.
I don't. Did you say that, Don? You're,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think if we're not physically touching the
camera.
cameras, I don't think that will count.
Or are we not touching the camera?
so the motion was to put a bag over
Yes,
it.
and that's why I was trying to ask if that would be, if you'd be in the same position either way, then we don't need to go down that path any further as far as what to do tonight. But
I guess my concern is, and I don't understand, we are not actively using these cameras. We have stopped. We have ceased based on what the board says. We're not running any
But
plates.
somebody else is.
municipality within the nation that subscribes to Flock can access it.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just telling my point of view.
Sure.
You don't have to agree with me. I'm just talking from where I sit here, and that's my concern with it.
Sure.
And I don't see why it is that urgent that we have to do that, and we can't go through reduce the number of days. I don't care, but I'd rather do it the proper way and give Flock a chance to respond to it.
Okay. I understand your concern. I was not here for the previous discussion, but my understanding is that the concern is not, and honestly, from what I saw of the public hearing, the concern was not Bolivar PD accessing the information really at all. The primary concern was the fact that we don't know what information is being collected and who it's being distributed to currently, and that continues to be the case until they're physically obstructed or removed. So while I understand your point that on our end, we've done everything we can to cease accessing the information, my understanding is that the concerns from the constituents and from the board are that information may still be being collected and may be being accessed by other parties, and therefore the privacy interests of the citizens are still subject to whatever Flock decides to do. So that I think, I understand your point, but I also understand the board's perspective that us ceasing to access that information does not address the privacy concerns raised at the previous meeting. Would you feel comfortable contracting out for someone else to do it?
Absolutely.
But even that's going to take.
You think we couldn't get someone to come out with a garbage bag tomorrow?
I think
Who doesn't work for the
Well,
city?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think if you're talking covering as opposed to building something to. I mean, yeah, I think we could.
That's why I'm
contract
wondering
out
if
for-
it's a matter of he does not feel comfortable directing staff to do it. Would he feel comfortable hiring someone to do it And would that be a way for it to be accomplished and still, again, honor? I'm a big believer in not pressing people to violate their consciences. So, so that's why I'm genuinely asking, would you feel comfortable if we asked you to hire someone to cover the cameras?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Is this still up for discussion, or is we still have the motion in a second?
Well, can
We
I,
can still discuss.
I mean,
Well, I think that it deserves some more discussion.
which is fine.
I want to follow our way of doing things, and so I know there was, in the past, we had motion in a second, and we had to vote on it.
Yes.
But if we are willing to have this conversation, do we need to rescind that motion second?
Did the motion include bags over the cameras?
I think it did.
Let's vote on that and vote it down and redo
Are you-
What is your,
as something in front. so we're not-
As contracting out instead of directing staff to
Well-
do it.
Well, that's not
And
part of the
putting
motion.
something
The
in
motion-
front.
I know,
instead of
that's
a
why the
bag.
motion needs to be that way. What were we gonna say, Brian?
I still want to have conversation about this.
Yes.
but-
Well, we can
Yeah.
still
Which-
converse.
which I
after
agree.
we
Let's
So,
back
motion in a
off.
second.
kibosh
Let's
the-
back off just a bit.
So let's
No.
vote on
All
that
right.
motion.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Right.
Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
The noes have it. The motion is is rejected.
Right.
Now then,
Now we'll discuss.
where do we go with this?
So reading this again,
Mr. Wilson.
it does not have a time where they can respond. I want to have something that says you have a week or 2 weeks. I understand that we're talking about doing something now, but I'm looking back at previous things that we sent with no time frame, and look where that got us. We're still waiting on a couple emails, whatever, from other agencies that we're having issues with. So I would like to have a time frame.
10 days.
Is it 10 days?
Counselor, are you,
It's in
or is
there.
is that addressed, or are you
Yes.
comfortable with that?
It's addressed. It's 10 days.
it's 10 days, right, just to clarify it, because I think you might be talking about something different. It's 10 days to respond to the request for permission to cover the camera, to object to the intention to cover the cameras. It is not 10 days to retrieve the cameras, which I think might be what you were
A little bit of
wanting.
both, yeah.
So if you wanted to have a date attached to the actual physical removal, I don't believe that's in here because the contract just specifies, right, Don, that it be sort of commercially
Like within business. like
normal, reasonable amount of time,
reasonable
whatever.
business.
So those, I would say those, there is a time for
The first one.
responding regarding covering. There's not a specific date given.
So
for the removal.
question I have is if we do want to say we're going to contract out to have somebody cover up the flock cameras, how quick do you think we could get somebody to do that?
But also, that's another cost that we're going to have to take on to contract that out as well.
I don't disagree.
And so, I mean,
Several of these are on other poles, and they're not just slap up a ladder and climb up there with a bag. There's some safety issues. They're in intersections. They're right next to the road. I don't feel comfortable with our staff doing that from a safety standpoint.
Do you have a suggestion?
Contract it out with somebody that's got a bucket truck and can follow the state rules to close a road or to provide safety for their workers to do it the right way. There's only one that you can get to with a ladder, and even that one's kind of dicey right next to the road. The rest of them are 12, 13 feet in the air. It's not just a go snag it kind of deal.
Do we have a timetable on contracting? I suppose we do not.
I'm also kind of with our city administrators. There's right ways to do things, and I understand, and I'm 100% supporting. We need to do what our constituents want, and our community said we don't want this. I'm a full favor of it, but I agree with let's do it the right way instead of. I agree with you. They might not come after Bolivar, but what happens if they're like, you know what, we're getting pushback from everywhere. Bolivar's going to be our first.
And what are they going to say? We want you to fulfill your contract, and we're going to say we've already paid you.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I'm not wanting that to happen. You know,
And so, you know, my thing is, what happens when we send Flock this letter and in 10 days they say, we don't object you to covering them? Okay, great. You know, we're going to be in the same boat we are right now. Are we going to contract it out, and all we've done is delayed it for 10 days?
Well, no, I think at that point, from what Thomas has said, if they said you can cover them, then
But we
if you,
have concerns of our staff, for safety of the staff.
And that
to
would
do
be-
it, then-
yeah.
And so, I mean.
From an ethical standpoint, I would be okay at that point. Now, the safety issues and working with Kyle and his team, if that is something that they can accomplish, that was a conversation I would have with them.
And yet the city has a bucket truck.
That we do. I will say that Flock has been very responsive. Anytime we've emailed them, asked them questions. So to give us a couple days for them to respond to this, I think that's not asking too much. I don't know why we have to rush into this and do it tomorrow morning when I think we could probably get an answer to them pretty quickly.
I was just about to ask, Don, do you think, is 10 days what we need to be doing, or could we request a 48-hour response?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, we could shorten it. We would have to. I can get with Paula and Thomas and the chief and find out who generally receives correspondence via email from the city, and do it that way. I don't have an issue with that.
And if they don't respond in 48 hours, do we take it that they're okay with it?
Yeah, that would the letter would say.
Yep. Okay.
And so then, do we wait for 2 weeks till we come back to a meeting, or?
I think you can give contingent instructions to staff.
So then let's figure out what the contingent instructions would be.
There's an email in our packet.
Yes,
What
there
What
is.
is that? So we already started the
Performance
process?
issue?
Yeah. As I briefed earlier, we've already put in the work order request to remove the
Okay.
And
cameras.
Flock's already responded that
Yes.
they're going to put it
Yeah.
on equipment
As soon
removal.
as possible.
Right, but it's
But it could be a week, it
Be a
could be
week
2
or
weeks,
two.
could be 2
Right.
months. I don't know. I mean, they're in the
And-
business of installing, not in
yes,
taking them down.
exactly. Which is why we're trying to say we get that. We understand your business that's not in the business of uninstalling all of this stuff, and we still would like to ensure that information is not being collected after the termination of the contract. So, would Dusty, would you be more comfortable? Would you be comfortable with a 48-hour, knowing that we do not have to reconvene, and we could, like, staff could start the ball rolling in 48 hours?
Now, what if Flock comes back and says, no, we don't want you to cover the cameras?
Then I think you could decide whether we should have that can be part of the contingent instructions, right? We could say we would like to have a special meeting at that point. We could also give contingent instructions that say, if this is the answer, do this, and if this is the answer, do this. I think either of those would be fine.
So really it comes down to, if Flock says no, then what do we want to do? If they
And, you know,
say
that's my
yes,
thing
then
is-
we know what to do.
You know, if we contract it out, do we put it out for bid and see who wants to do it? I
If
mean,
they
you
say,
know,
if they say yes, we don't have to.
Well, no, I'm saying, if they say no, do we
If-
then put it out for bid and we wait to get the bid packet to see who's gonna do what? And that takes another week to 2 weeks, and now we're 4 to 6 weeks into.
I understand the
Yeah.
concern. Is there, and I just don't remember off the top of my head, Thomas, is there a minimum threshold for the bid process being triggered, or is it anything like by category as opposed to by
No,
price?
this is probably something that we could do at my threshold.
Okay.
I can't
So-
imagine it's going to
so
be
if
over
we could-
$10,000.
So if we could, now, I would also say, if they come back and say no, that could open up the erect a structure in front of it to,
Right.
to obstruct the view. I don't know if that would be more likely to run afoul of the, or to run past the limit on the financial threshold. But we could say, if they say yes, bag it, and if they say no, build it. And just say, like, that's what we want done, and we want, within 48 hours to hear back from them one way or the other, and then hopefully have it resolved by end of week, maybe? I don't know how quickly that would be able to
Well,
be
if we send a
feasible.
letter tomorrow,
48
give 'em
hours.
48 hours,
That'd be
you know,
Friday,
Wednesday,
right?
Thursday, Friday, and we should have a response by Friday, and if we don't, then we'll assume that we can bag them, and if they say no, then we can probably start looking at erecting something on Friday.
So that would be a potential compromise.
I think that sounds like a good solution.
So do we have a motion with
No motion
clarity and with consensus?
I don't know how clear it's gonna be, but.
Well, we're gonna
As
need to
mud.
we're gonna
I
need to
just-
make it, we're gonna have to make it clear.
Well, so far we've done is just float an idea and not have anyone veto it out of the gate. But Don, do you have what I just suggested, the possible of sort of contingent instructions to staff based on the response received within 48 hours or lack of response? Do you have any, please no, don't do that, concerns as council that we should hear before we make a decision?
No. I think what you guys have talked about is fine. One thing, I mean, if they say don't bag them, then we get to maybe decide what a reasonable time is for them to remove them. And if they don't, we can simply tell them that they are now in breach and do it. Again, none of this is tested, I don't know. So
Well, if they are obstructive, if
I
you
would
as
pre-
obstructive.
I would prefer to take things as they come, so I can give you guys good answers,
Sure.
not speculative ones.
No,
so.
no, no. I understand. That's why I was only going so far as dealing with the collection of data aspect. If they are either bagged or barricaded close to the end of this week, then I feel much more comfortable having the conversation about what's reasonable for them to come and collect the cameras and go back and forth on when they're being unreasonable or whatever, because we've dealt with the continued collection of information.
Mr. Sagerser has a comment.
Thomas,
Sir?
are you okay with that? The 48 hours
Yes,
and then contract and,
I am.
okay, I
Is
just,
it possible, if they say no, could we send out a cease and assist for them to stop collecting the data immediately?
Yeah.
Did we do the cease and desist with this letter?
I mean, I essentially thought it was already there.
That's our state rep guy.
I see.
That was interesting.
Does it? Hold on. Sorry. Does it say that we want them to cease collecting information?
So who would like to at least begin the paragraph? And let's see what additions and edits and deletions that we can make
Yeah.
before we make a motion which needs to have clarity and consensus.
I don't think we need to go through all that. I think we have a pretty good idea of what the motion needs to be at this point. Yes?
Well, then, let's hear the motion.
Rock on, Dusty.
Oh, okay.
If you want, you can break
So-
it into two motions. One for the.
I may need to. So, I think we need to send this letter to Flock with a 48-hour deadline to respond of if we can bag the cameras. And if no response in the 48 hours, then that's constitutes they're okay with us bagging the cameras. Are we good? Do we want to put a cease and desist in this letter that they stop collecting it, or?
There is a paragraph that says, please shut down all flock camera operations in the city of Bolivar immediately. Includes discontinuing all license plate detection, plate
Okay.
reads, live streaming, video capture, sharing of data.
Perfect, so that's already.
So
So does that need to be a part of the motion, or is that
That's
just
already-
a-
already-
or just
it's
part
in the
of
letter. We're in
just
there, it's good.
a part of the letter that we've already?
It's in there.
And after 48 hours, if they don't respond, then are you good with city staff and a bucket truck covering them? I mean, if they
Yes,
don't respond, well, I was more Justin, because he was concerned about staff safety.
I still think it's a safety issue, but if Thomas thinks it, and
I think we-
Kyle
we
think
need
it's,
to- defer to
Kyle,
Thomas.
I've been texting a little bit. I think we're capable of doing it, but keep in mind our streets crews, they are off on Fridays.
Okay.
They work 410s.
so it'd be Monday.
I just want to add that we have in
Step in.
tomorrow and then early next week we have thousands of dollars of box culverts coming in and cranes scheduled, so I do have that as a high priority project already. That is an ongoing city project. So we would, if there's like constructing something, and I would want to coordinate with MoDOT on their right of way. There is a little bit if it comes to the option of placing something in front of them. I think there could be a little bit more to address there. Can be done, I think. It's just needs to be addressed.
So, how about on this motion say that if they come back and say they don't want us to cover the cameras with bags, that we can have a special meeting, or we'll have a meeting to address other options if they come back and say that?
can I
100%.
it's your motion? Can I recommend that we just do the motion of the letter first, and then we can do a motion of what we'll do in response to the 48 hours?
I'll make a motion that we send this letter with a 48-hour deadline for them to respond about us bagging their cameras. in
Second.
there.
Okay, that seems clear enough. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion carries. Now then,
Okay.
there was a follow-up motion, I understand.
Yeah. If they don't respond within 48 hours, that we'll direct staff to
cover them.
cover the cameras. If they do respond within 48 hours and say they don't want us to cover them, then we'll have a special meeting to explore options Friday.
Can we condense that a little bit?
Can we have a meeting on Friday? Because we need to give
We would have to
notice
notice it.
of a public meeting.
24
So
hours.
first part
24
next week.
hours?
Yeah.
And also from what Kyle has said, if the 48 hours expires on Friday and our street people are not here, then we would need to figure out if we want it to go up on Friday and try to find someone and have someone to do it, or like if the priority is to get it done on Friday, or if the priority is to go ahead and have the city people do it when they're available.
I would like to request the board respect the matter that Mr. Lee brought forward, that if we're going to ask the his staff to do this with other important pressing matters already scheduled and on there.
Yeah, my biggest concern with that is any direction for tomorrow, which it seems like that has pivoted away. So I think that's one point of clarity. As far as a structure, like I said, I do think we would need to have some communication with MoDOT and some of those other things. I just want us to do whatever we do in a right way. I think as Thomas has pointed out, I would just want to make sure that those boxes are being checked. I can begin that work on Friday if I get notice that there wasn't any sort of response or whatever. We need to start doing that. I don't think there needs to be necessarily a delay on those contacts. I don't know how quickly I'll get responses and all of that, but
Right.
Yeah.
So the motion with clarity is,
We need a motion.
Well, we need to direct staff what to do based on the response to the or non-response to the letter.
special meeting.
is that,
What's the earliest?
is
Don?
that clear?
We haven't got it.
Hang on.
City clerk says that does not
Don,
constitute clarity.
what's the soonest we could have a meeting after that 48-hour period elapses?
Let's see, Monday.
So Monday.
24 hours.
So if they come back and say no, we'll have a special meeting on Monday to explore options.
Is that soon enough?
So the
Justin?
motion with
That's
clarity,
I don't know that.
Yeah.
may I say, clarity again is,
I have one question.
yes ma'am.
Okay, Don,
I think we
Yeah.
need to have a motion.
okay, and this is just stretch, okay? Could we go ahead and schedule a special meeting for Friday,
Ooh, I like it.
pending the possibility that they say no, we can't? And if they go ahead and give us the approval, we can cancel the special meeting. And that gives us the 24-hour notice, and we can still meet on Friday.
I like it. The smart lady.
There we go.
Great motion.
Okay. So
All right.
the
So
motion,
what's the time? What
Motion
time?
made
Yeah.
by Alderman Raines.
What
okay,
time
so
on Friday?
the motion is, again, please,
The motion is that if we receive a response from Flock and they say no, we cannot cover the cameras, we will already have a scheduled special session for Friday at 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. Do we want it sooner? Do we want 8 a.m.? I don't care.
someone say,
Well, I'm wondering about
AM?
board availability, so I just want to make sure people can actually be here.
Well, they probably won't. Maybe
Not 8 a.m. because they
10
might.
a.m. Do you think you can get
No.
the letter to them by 9 a.m. tomorrow, Don?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll give them 49 hours, and we can plan to meet at 10 a.m. Friday, for a special session if they say
I will be here in spirit.
okay.
If it's not early or late.
Can you zoom?
Madam
maybe.
Clerk,
Is there a different time, Justin, that would allow you to be here?
Early or late. So
Like 8?
8 at the latest.
What is
or
late?
5:30. As long as staff doesn't mind some overtime Friday night.
What do we want to do? I don't.
I think we've already got,
Already got what?
someone who would be involved in this. Wonder, never mind.
Do you have something?
Rhett, would you like to address the board?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate your feedback here.
I've operated a bucket truck for 25 years working for Empire District.
Yes.
So if you need somebody to come in on Friday and they give the okay to bag them, all you need is the truck, you need a CDL driver, and you need cones. And one sign that'll say slow. So if if you need that, I can deliver that, if that'll make it easier on everybody.
And we shouldn't need MoDOT input since we're not constructing anything, we're just covering something.
I was gonna ask, are these wood poles or metal poles?
Is there a?
Back in the camera?
Anytime
No, if we have to construct
you
something.
must be.
Come on up.
They got the,
Okay, and,
Most of them are where
name
they
and address.
put a pole in there.
Jason Civils, 1255 East 420th Road, Bolivar. My boys and guys have been in trouble for geotech drilling and or just pulling stuff off onto MoDOT right away without getting approval. It's a slap on the hand. I will warn you, but they do want to be notified, which you might be able to notify them tomorrow. But yeah, they are a little. Anytime we do any lane drop, even for a few minutes, they get pretty upset pretty quick with us. I get some angry phone calls pretty fast. So you might just keep that in mind as far as with MoDOT goes. Anytime you're on their right away for a few minutes, they get upset fairly quickly. So.
I mean, that seems to we're really rushing into this when there are considerations that need to be taken into account.
Yeah, I just don't want the city staff and MoDOT to be kind of in an argument out there over that. But Kyle maybe will give them a heads up enough. But I would definitely make sure you give them some heads up, even though it's not truly construction. Anytime we do anything that even slightly touches it, they get really territorial real quick.
Thank you very much for your input. It's very valuable.
And it would be a good thing to kind of notify them of that. Now, I know with Empire, as long as we were off the road in the ditch, then we could go up and we could work on whatever we wanted. But it never hurts to give people a heads up and say, hey, we got 4 cameras. We can get them from the ditches, if they want them, if they say okay to cover them up.
Okay.
But I would be willing, if you wanted to do something like that, we could sure help
Alderman
out.
Price, did you have a comment?
no, I'd like for Alderman Raines to finish her motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion.
Thank you, Rhett.
Okay.
If they say no, we have a special session that will be pre-scheduled, so we can provide our 24-hour notice for 10 a.m. Friday. And if they say yes or do not respond, then we can just go ahead and cancel that meeting.
Is that clear enough, Madam Clerk?
And direct the
Okay.
covering of the
In
camera.
what?
If they don't respond, and direct the covering of the camera.
Yes, and direct the covering of the cameras if they do not respond, or if they give us the approval.
Did you get all that,
All
Madam
that
Clerk?
in the motion, or are you going to decide that 10 a.m. on Friday?
That is the motion.
Yeah, 10 a.m. Friday would be what to do if they say don't touch them.
Right.
That would be the 3 alternative responses that they could have. They say yes, bag them. If they say nothing, bag them. If they say no, don't touch them, then we would meet as scheduled at 10 a.m. on Fridays.
Right.
So do we
I'll
have
second that motion.
clarity on the motion? Just a moment, please.
If you don't mind, go ahead and repeat it.
Okay.
Okay. Another time, I make a motion that we schedule a special session for 10 a.m. Friday for the possibility that Flock does not give us the approval to cover the cameras. And that special session, we will discuss the next steps. And if they do not respond, or if they do give us approval, the motion is to have staff cover the cameras after notifying MoDOT
And canceling the Friday meeting.
and canceling the Friday 10 a.m. meeting.
Are we
Got
complete?
everything?
Are we complete and clear, Madam Clerk?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. That motion
Red,
and all its
Red, if you need someone,
Yes, pa-
if you drive the
is
bucket,
approved.
I will come and cover the cameras. I'll go up in the bucket and cover them for you.
But our insurance will let you go up in the bucket. But I appreciate where your heart's
I
at.
volunteer myself. Volunteer tribute.
okay. All right. Let's see. Where are we here?
Number 2.
Okay. Oh, good. That was
thing into
number.
another.
Okay, that's number 1.
Yes, that you
Yeah.
said we would get through quickly.
Yeah. Mr. Lee, could you step forward and I'm sure in a few short sentences you can.
Yeah. Well, hopefully everybody has had the opportunity to see the board packet and I'll give a little explanation on those. Started with a description of each phase, and we've generally, obviously this is in reference to the East Loop project. I'll note that we do have two engineers here from Great River Engineering as well. If you have more technical questions, they're available as well. But to start us off, I'll try to move through these phases. This is in conjunction both with an update that the board I think it needs, and it's timely. I do think we have some decisions that we need some guidance from the board for myself or staff to move forward. But also this is in conjunction with a request from MoDOT to provide a breakdown of funding and available funding. And so that's why you'll see in the proposal sheets in your packet, you'll see them broken. Each sheet will have a phase, or each phase will have a sheet, and then you'll see the cost estimate at the top left. You'll see a general projected schedule, and then you'll see two funding plans at the bottom. The funding plan to the right on each of the sheets is the Bolivar's requested changes. Again, the language there is because that is the language that we're using with MoDOT. We are requesting some changes to, particularly to one of our funding mechanism, the governor's cost share. And so that will come up throughout the presentation here, and I'll mention that as it goes. But if you would look with me on phase one, and then I'm going to alternately turn back each phase to this decision matrix, I would say. These are the questions that I have for you. Hopefully you'll be ready to answer those tonight, having considered this project for a long time. Ultimately, I think I need these answers in short time in order to continue and engage in our various funding mechanisms moving forward. Phase one, as we have labeled it here, is the roundabout intersection at Highway 32, Broadway Street, and Route D, or Pomme de Terre. That intersection cost estimate there is broken down, breaks out to be an estimated $5,343,000. Of course, you're aware of that and aware of the reason for the roundabout and all of that. So I don't think I probably need to engage in all that, but if you have questions related to the scope of the project, please let me know. But if you look down to the bottom, what you will notice is both the funding plan that we have funds available, as well as any requested changes. Those on this phase are essentially the same because we have acquired the MoDOT 50/50 cost share for the intersection. And then there's some other costs noted there. One of the other major ones is the HUD earmark. And with those, the funds that we have available, what that brings the city's costs to would be $1.4 million. $1,414,000 is the estimate there. And so the first, and I think we can come back to these, but as I just walk through them, I think it'll be helpful to describe what question is posed at each point. But on this phase, I think it's important for us to be able to communicate clearly to MoDOT whether or not the board is ready to proceed with the construction of the intersection, this roundabout, at this cost of $1.4 million. I will note, I think it may be helpful just as an overall statement that the city has directed myself and other staff to pursue this project if ultimately the board decides to do the project. When I look at phase one and phase two, as I'll describe it, I will say our overall money works out to around 70-30, meaning the city's portion is about 30%, and we're having other funding sources for about 70%. So I do think that what we have in front of us is the best opportunity to construct the road at a reasonable cost if you ever intend to construct the road. So that's, again, not me. I don't think it's my job to tell you whether you should or shouldn't. I think that's decisions that you need to make and have been directing me to find. But as far as the funding that we do have available for phase one in particular, there you see $1.4 million. It's not a small amount of dollars, but on the overall percentage of the project, it's a significantly reduced rate. If you look there at phase two, Phase 2 is the, what we're calling Phase 2 would be the route of the East Loop that moves from Broadway Street to Buffalo Road, moving there north and south. You see there the estimated costs, pretty similar to the overall costs for the roundabout. The whole roadway section is right now estimated around $5.3 million. And you'll notice down there at the bottom, our ask, our request on the bottom right is, this is the first major change, is we are asking MoDOT to convert our governor's cost share from the 75-25 that it currently is. That's what we were granted. And we are asking them to bring us to the 50-50 match, which is really all the other communities that receive the governor's cost share. We're at the 50-50 match. I asked this of MoDOT in October last year, asked it again a little bit more directly in November and December. Generally got told, no, that's not happening. And then they approached us with, well, tell us how you would do that if we did accept that. So that's kind of the genesis of that funding breakdown within this cost estimate, is to tell them.
I'm curious
Yes.
myself, through whom have we made the request for the change in the government transportation cost share? Who are you dealing with?
Well, I've had written correspondence with the Southwest District Supervisor of MoDOT, and he takes it to the committee. There's a committee that makes the decision. The governor's cost shares committee.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we've had direct communication via the Southwest District
all right.
Supervisor.
Real quick, the city or county, this area received 2 of these governor cost shares. The one was out there on Hospital Road. Was it 430th?
Yeah.
430th, they funded at a much lower level than what was asked, but it was 50-50. This one they funded 75-25 for some reason. We went through the same deal with the county and with MoDOT to say, hey, we don't want to pay for the entire scope that we asked for. We want to reduce the scope so that way it's something we can afford. So we were asking for 100% funding. You gave us 50%. That means that whenever we pitch in our money, we can only afford to do this much instead of this much. Last year, oh no, we don't do that. This year, they just approved it at their last board meeting to switch that over to lower the dollar amount. I think that almost all the cities and counties are doing almost the same thing, and they went from very rigid to to realize that nobody's going to spend the money, and it was going to be kind of a flop of a program. And so I think that they're going to be very receptive to you.
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. So in conjunction with what Jason just pointed out, is we've been providing them correspondence back and forth as they've been requesting. This has been the most recent request that they've had.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. And so I will note there, if you look back at your kind of decision-making discussion points, you'll notice on phase 2, really the question here is, and I appreciate Jason's input there, I think we've had some receptivity in those conversations, so I'm hopeful that we can plan for that option of going from 75-25 to 50-50. And if so, that would bring the city's cost for that roadway section to $2.3 million. And so the question there put to the board there on your sheet is, if MoDOT grants our requested governor's cost share conversion to 50-50, is the board ready to proceed with construction of the intersection and north roadway section? So that is what I'm calling phase 2, and those would be the costs. As you can see there on your sheet, or just simple math, the rough costs for phase 1 and 2 to the city would be roughly $3.7 million. And of course, these are items that still have to go out to bid. These are, engineering cost estimates and everything we know so far about the product or about the project. Okay, the next phase I would want to look at is what we had previously had: East Loop, North Corridor, South Corridor. Through our most recent public hearing and the board's direction and all, we're having what I would call alternate phase 3. The reason that is because, in just our engagement with MoDOT, what we're trying to put forward to them, my understanding from the board's perspective, is that this would be the next phase the board would want to do. If we did the roundabout, we do the road section, the next phase, then it seems the intention would be to do the connector. We've just kind of generally called it that, from moving from Buffalo Road connecting onto Sandy Lane. So you would have that continuous intersection there. That would be the new intersection of the East Loop coming from the north, and then would cross Buffalo and then travel, in a serpentine way to connect over to Sandy Lane on the east. The estimated costs, and Austin may be able to give some updated costs when we actually, our next item, or a couple items down, we have talk about the proposal for the engineering part of this side. 1.9 million was some numbers we were working with early on. That could change, could lower probably fairly significantly if we go to a style of road that looks more closely to the existing Sandy Lane versus we're designing the East Loop with a center turn lane and things like that. We could still acquire the necessary right-of-way and do grading and things like that, but you could see a differing cost there. But right now I'm working with the dollars of 1.9 million. And as you'll notice there, this also connects the question of the governor's cost share being permitted to be applied to this project. If it was not, then that total cost would be 1.9 million. If it is, the projected cost there for the city, if we receive any additional funding, the 50-50 portion would be 667,000. But assuming we would get no other additional grants, we of course would have some time to pursue those, but assuming we would get no other additional grants, the total cost to the city for phase 3 would be 1.2 million. So that is again, like I referred to as alternate phase 3, with that request to prioritize that above the next phase, which would be the south intersection. The south intersection, you'll see their estimated cost of 1.7 million. This is another intersection that we have acquired, the MoDOT 50-50 cost share, and our direct costs there would be estimated to be 842,000. That's similar. We don't have to request any specific change for that to occur at that cost. The only change that I would continue to pursue if we move through the decisions is to ask MoDOT to separate the intersection, any requirement to build the roadway and the intersection just to be separated so that there wouldn't be any negative impact on us if it took us longer to build the roadway section. The last one is phase 4. You'll notice it has a little bit of additional information because that kind of wraps up the funding, and there's a bit of a question there of what will happen, in these other earlier phases. But you'll notice that the estimated cost there is 7.5 million. When you look at the cost bracket down there to the right, that would be using the alternate phase 3. Right now, the only funds that we have available that would be associated with that portion of the project would be the HUD earmark, which would afford us the engineering costs. The HUD earmark is eligible for that, for the engineering of the entire loop, and then the rest of the costs would be borne by the city pending other future grants. So of course that is the highest ticket item because we don't have any other additional funding if MoDOT lets us move all those other items as we would request. So if I worked backwards a little bit well, first of all, I guess any questions about the numbers or the breakdown of those phases?
The state recently, I'm pretty sure, gave us another 1.5 million. Is that been factored in?
It was not because, go ahead.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that we'll get that. It's termed restricted funds, and I think it's kind of at the mercy of the governor depending on revenues and expenses moving forward. So I would not count on that in your calculations at this point. It is in the budget, but it's not guaranteed.
The best information I had.
Not only second that, I think that particular category of budgeting, certainly under the present circumstances at the state is highly, highly unlikely to be seen.
That was the latest information I had, that it was unlikely. So just, I guess, a note of benefit would be if that were to come, that would be in addition to what's presented here. So any of the costs that you take that it would be eligible for or applied to, that those costs would be reduced by the 1.5 million if we were to receive that. So it's not already factored in. So it would be a benefit, of course, to us there.
Okay. I was just curious if that would, if it does come together, is it restricted to any certain section of the deal, or is it just bottom line, we get 1.5 and take it off the top? Or?
Well, my understanding of the write-up of it is that it would be eligible for the roadway. So yes, I don't think we would utilize it directly for the intersections, and I think it probably would be most suited maybe for that connector route and some of the other,
Sure.
I haven't seen the specific restrictions on that though, so I don't want to, overspeak there.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. Any other questions on that? Okay. So I think that, these decisions, maybe they're simple to work through, but difficult to answer. But I would say it probably is better to just start at phase one. The question, of course, to the board is, MoDOT is in the final stages of reviewing and approving our roundabout. We would be ready to begin acquiring right-of-way probably this fall, right, Austin, and then move into bidding and begin some construction. We would tentatively desire to begin that construction in May of 27, so that the initial work of the roundabout can be done when school is out, and through the summer, and look for maybe completion in November and beyond as needed, but at least have traffic back open as quickly as possible for the school year. So at the cost of 1.4 million, I think what I need to be able to communicate to MoDOT is that the board continues to have a desire to move forward with that project, if that is the desire of the board.
I take it this is not a final approval.
Certainly not any. We're going to have to approve the cost share agreement. Ultimately, that's going to be one step.
You say ultimately. I mean, you're looking for that answer tonight?
No, that'll come as an ordinance. Correct. This is tonight. What I'm looking for is good faith direction that I can have good faith communications and negotiations with MoDOT on our behalf. I don't want to present something that isn't true or isn't reflective of the board's desire.
Mr. Wilson.
My comments and questions kind of revolve on all of the costs, but we'll just start with phase one. I know in previous meetings we talked about funding and how we're going to pay for this. Looking back at my notes a couple nights ago, Thomas, we kind of hashed that out a little bit of how much is going to cost in our budget. What's the cost? I mean, 1.4 million, where is it going to come from? How is it going to affect our budget and stuff like that?
Yeah, those are still decisions the board needs to make. Yeah.
That's a lot of money that, especially in budget season, we are struggling to find,
There's no secret. I mean, there is money left from the sale of Liberty. We are sitting on a substantial amount of money, $15-16 million that's out there that's earning interest.
But we use that interest to...
We haven't lately, no, sir.
Sure. But in the past, we have.
When those have come to maturity, we just been rolling those back in and reinvested them. So we...
Except for the loan to the fire department.
Right.
So that's my biggest concern with this project is how is it going to affect our budget coming up, and where are we going to use that money, and which...
I think it's fair to say, Thomas, as we discussed, that this would not... There's not really a path forward for this to be funded out of, annual operational costs. That's not.
No.
We don't have enough room within our annual operations budget to fund a project. It would have to be as Thomas
described. It has to be a
from
combination of loans, potentially, actually big substantial amounts of our Liberty money, interest over the years that can be applied towards a loan or towards a payment. So, I mean, there's a combination of things we can do.
Yeah, and I mean, to Thomas's point, that would be something that, I wouldn't mind looking into, because let's say, 1.4 for the first phase. Obviously you're looking at construction 27, 28. So, but at that point, we look and say, what are we getting off of 1.4 million in interest from the if it's X amount and we go and look at a loan amount and the payments are less than what we're making on the interest, then great, let's take the loan and make it the payments with the interest payment. If it comes back and, hey, your payments are going to be way more than what we're getting on the interest, maybe it is something that we look and say, can we take some of that money from the buy that down and then get a loan to cover that and build that money back up with the interest. We have options as far as funding goes. I'm hoping and I'm assuming phase 2 and 3, because personally I would like to see phase 2 and 3 kind of go hand in hand, so we don't have to stop at Buffalo Road, take a left and right as short a time as possible. But there are going to be potential for more grants out there in 27, 28, 29, because I think even phase 3, according to this, you're looking at
29.
construction timeline 2029. So I'm assuming if the board says, yeah, you guys aren't going to be like, oh, we're not going to look for any more grants.
We
or any
would,
more
yeah,
funding,
and part of me building that timeline, I think you could shrink that up if you were like fund it right now today. Part of the goal of that is that would give me at least 2 additional build grant submissions and things like that. We'll be a little bit more advanced in that application as we have our engineering complete and right of way acquired and things like that. So we have the ability to move forward on this phase and still.
And I think you brought up a great point of, this is something that in a lot of people's minds has needed to be done for the city for a very long time. And funding was an issue, things like that. And we're looking at potentially being able to do a large portion of it at a 70-30%, which us paying the 30% for something that I'm sure everybody else hears it a lot. Springfield Avenue, it's only getting busier. Why can't we make Springfield Avenue? It's never going to be 4-lane. Like that's just not feasible. And so this hopefully will help alleviate some of those issues and facilitate some growth in the area. And it will take, in my opinion, one of the biggest problems we have, the infrastructure and the transportation. And if we can do it at a cost of 30%, and if we could do it with interest money that we get over those years or different grants, I think this is one of those projects we're going to look back on in 40 years and hope that, hey, we made the right decision. And I feel like this is kind of at that point where this is one of those chances we get to make the right decision for the future of the city. So,
Can I ask Kyle, if the entire roadway were constructed, roughly what percentage would be of the new loop would be new roadway, and what percentage would be the existing roadway in the county, like of the loop? Do you know what I'm saying?
You mean, yeah. So if you count,
like a mile long, half of it's city, half of it's, like that kind of.
I think it's
ballpark.
about half, but that. I don't have that right. If I had GIS up, I could
it's fine.
I could
I'm
do
not
that
looking
measurement
for exact.
pretty quickly.
It's not like, my point is, it's not just a little.
Austin might figure it out here in just a second.
It's
he's got a
I don't
computer
necessarily
open.
need the specific percentage. I just, part of what I'm thinking is trying to remember that at the end of the day, if all of this is done, what we have is a portion and a portion and a connection that's outside of our control that is not. I don't know enough about that roadway to know what it's in a position to bear as far as how functional, because to your point, Dusty, I want to be able to look back in decades to come and be like, we made good choices and we took risks where it was appropriate to pay off for the growth of Bolivar. What I don't want is to spend millions and millions of dollars and end up still not having the thing that we wanted to buy with those millions of dollars. So that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Sure.
I have been a little bit. Oh, do you have the number?
Yeah, so it would. Go ahead.
Hi, Austin Hostetler, Great River Engineering. The existing Sandy Lane that wouldn't be touched would be about a mile. The south segment is a little over a mile, and the north segment is a little under. So you'd be about
A third?
2/3.
Okay, about a third of it would be that. Okay.
Would be new. Yeah.
That's helpful, thank you. I will say I've struggled to justify the cost in my, that's not fair. I think it's worth the cost. The question is, can we pay for it? I've been a little bit leery of this project from the beginning, but at each step, we've not been asked to make a final decision about the whole project. It's been, do we want to use grant funds to hire an engineer? Yes, okay, I can make that decision without having decided that the whole thing is worth it. Or do we want to pursue environmental studies? Or do we want to do the next step? And I've tried very hard to focus on just that next step because we have not been obligating ourselves to the whole project by taking that next step. We are rapidly approaching the point where we're obligating ourselves to some more significant, so even like the next step of the intersection. I don't know that just the intersection at D Highway is worth $1.5 million in city dollars just to have a roundabout there. Like if all we were talking about was, do you want a roundabout at D for $1.5 million? I don't know that we would be having this discussion. So it only becomes worthwhile as a stepping stone to more things. And so we're just getting to that point where, do we think we would be able to pay for it? Even the first couple of phases, right? The $3.7 million in city funds, right, for that first portion, those first two. Even at a 10-year loan period, we're still looking at 300 some odd thousand at zero interest. It's 300 some odd $1,000 a year. So if we loan ourselves money out of the Liberty money, and I've been on the board long enough to remember how carefully we talked about and how committed we were, and I still am, to having that available for something like an emergency or whatever future need. But even for us to pay it back, to borrow money and pay it back, are we in a position where we could support a $300,000 or more loan service payment annually out of our other budget funds in order to be able to pay that back? And that would be 10 years just for phases 1 and 2. That wouldn't even be the debt service for the other phases that have significantly higher price tags. So I guess, Thomas, my question to you, and I know we don't know what the future holds, but if we were trying to make a $350,000 loan payment annually out of our current revenues in order to try and replenish those funds, would we be able to do it?
And you're saying not touch it, any of our principal?
I'm saying, so possibly as a self-loan.
Yeah.
We talked about, maybe I'm just kidding myself, but we had sort of talked about maybe the possibility of using that money as like a revolving loan so that we always have the principal, or at least the debt to ourselves of the principal. Or if we wanted to do it as a straight loan to someone else, then we're going to have to actually pay more interest. But either way, we're going to need to be making, if it's 10 years, it's 300. If we're trying to pay it back faster so we can take out more loans for the other phases, those payments are going to be higher. So my question is, can we even make those payments?
I think we could.
How, what?
I mean, we'd have to bring something back to the board.
Can I ask one question? What are we getting on interest a year? I know
every year is different. Every year is different.
Lowest year and our highest year.
This year's the lowest. It was only like what, 50,000. But like next year, it's like 160,000.
Okay.
And then the year after is like 190,000.
Okay.
Is that?
Because they're laddered.
Yeah.
And it's not all at once.
Yeah.
So
and
it
we
spreads
have
it
like
out.
2028. It's really going to get.
Or did you want percentages?
We have a lot more interest.
Because
coming
I
to
look at it
maturity.
as if, I mean, off topic, but to your point of if we're loaning the money to ourselves, we can structure the payback of this much interest, that much, knowing that 2028 is going to be a bigger number.
Sure.
So, question I have, we mentioned the build grant. I know you said we've put in for it. If we show a substantial step, like, hey, we're funding phase 1 or does that kind of put us towards them being, I'm not saying like it's guaranteed.
Yeah,
but
I think
it's one
two
of those,
things.
like, we would like to do it. Go ahead and give us a build grant, or hey, we've already got this skin in the game. now we'd also like to have, you know, the build. Does that help?
Yeah,
our,
let me give my thoughts on that. You guys might chime in as well, but I would say two things would strengthen our build grant. Having completed engineering and acquired right-of-way, I think that really any path the city takes, I think that is the right path to take if you ever intend to build a road ever. I think you need to finish the engineering and acquire the right-of-way, also because we have funding for that. So it just doesn't make sense not to. So I think that will greatly strengthen our application in the future. I think the other element is political. So I think we can work harder politically on it the next time we apply. It's competitive though. It was you know, they grant about 5% of them, but there's people that get them too. Most often people get them that I've seen were multiple submissions. So you know, some of that, and obviously I'm sure they're doing the same thing. First submission, maybe the application is not as strong. Second submission, you've made a little bit further steps. I certainly think it's worth pursuing, and I want us to, you
just
know,
to remind, what funding is the build grant like?
It's 80/20.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when we would apply for that, the last time we applied for it, we basically wrapped everything. We'll keep doing that. Every phase that we haven't constructed, we're going to say we want to do it all at the build grant, you know, rate, even if we have to turn something else away, you know, if they don't stack or something. But yeah, absolutely, we're going to pursue that one and to its fullest.
Okay.
You got any other comments on that?
So the build grant, if you want to Google it, it was originally, I think, called the Tiger Grant under Obama. And then it was build, then it was raise, then it was build again. Every president gets to, it's kind of like the governor's cost share at the federal level. So every president renames it to the point that Warsaw, we're currently doing one as a raise grant that halfway through it, we have to change the name on all documents to build because the president would like it changed. That said, the way that those go, you made the comment political. We will want to continue to get engagement from our senators and representatives at the federal level. That's the first thing. Letters of support, things of that nature. The second thing is, whether people want to admit it or not, if you map an overlay of red voting districts and the current president, what the president's side is, and that voting district, that's who gets the money in these build grants. When they were the Tiger Grant, they went to blue areas. When they were the build grant, they went to red areas. I mean, you can look at it year after year after year. So we're in a good spot for a couple years to apply. What they look at and what I've gotten feedback on whenever we've failed at them was project readiness. Whenever we applied and they didn't pass it. That comes down to, how do I know that Mike Stevens, the landowner, is going to work with us? How do I know he's not going to try to throw a big wrench? Well, if I have the right of way, it's done. How do I know that we don't have environmental issue? When I have environmental clearance, then I've got all that passed. So as we check these boxes, NEPA status, you can notice it's disappearing on different ones. It says approved, things like that. As we get right of way, those types of project readiness scores go way up. Federal highway requires us to get NEPA, which is you get a FONSI, or finding of no significant impact. You have to get that before you can get an A date to go actually talk about right of way. So even if Justin, you owned all the land out there, you said I'll sell it all to the city for $1, we have to go through all this before we can have a formal discussion. That's the way federal laws work on right of way acquisition. And so as we get NEPA, we can then move to right of way. As far as applying for grants go, we were able to get Butler County 100% build grant for some stuff. They got lucky and unlucky because they're so poor and per capita that they qualified for 100%. We don't qualify for that because we all have a lot better jobs than most of the people down there, unfortunately. But that said, we'll work closely with Kyle. Kyle's a really active grant writer and really active in working with us with that. And I can remember when Kyle was getting yelled at for building permits the first time I was here to talk about this, and we had $0 in grant money for the entire thing, and we said, well, let's just give it a try to see if we can start to build that up. And so I want to caution you on phase 4, on past phase 3, there's a lot of good possibilities to get some build grants and things of that nature to help pay for that. That does not solve the $3 million out of pocket today, though.
Sure.
Or
What we will have at the end of it.
Correct.
And how much that will actually be what we were trying to buy.
Correct. I've done these projects in a lot of places. I've done these projects, Kansas Extension. If you go down to Kansas, then you take off on the new stuff. That took 25 years of planning before we got that thing finished up. 25 years of talking about it, which is about how long this has taken, right? And we run into this a lot, and sometimes the citizens go, well, if you don't have all the money to do the whole thing, why are you starting? Well, if the cost of construction keeps going up, we never catch up. Is part of our problem. Second thing is, real quick, I want to add, we've done a number of projects where we use roadway bonds and stuff like that. 20-year typical notes. Of course, if you're doing it yourself, you may want to pay yourself back faster than that. But we see a 20-year note pretty commonly on those. Interest rates, if you go out to the public, obviously are going to be higher than they would be doing it to yourself. But we typically see a 20-year bond rate on stuff like that. So you can kind of pick what you want as far as that goes. But again, I wouldn't get too caught up in the way out there phases, so to speak, because we're actively searching for grants nonstop. We realized that a lot of the reason we were hired by the city was to find money for this project.
Right.
And that's how we earn our keep. And Kyle's done a tremendous job at that. He's earned his keep about 100 times over for you guys.
I think part of what I'm struggling with, and part of this is because I don't build roads for a living, is knowing that there's a very good chance of grants and also there's a chance of not. And so if partway through it transpires that the money is not there, at what point will I feel like what we're left with is worth the investment? Like, will we feel like it's worth the investment to have a roundabout and a connection to Buffalo and eventually to Sandy Lane if we just get phase 1, 2, and alternate 3 done? And that's as far as we can get because we can't get the funding for 3 proper and 4 that's another $7 million or whatever it is. And that's where I'm trying to figure out, is the roundabout just worth it by itself? Okay, well, probably not because the whole, that intersection's a bit of a problem, but probably not $1.5 million worth of a problem to me personally. And then, at what point are we willing to accept the possibility of this is as far as we go for at least another 10 years before another round of stuff happens? And that's what I'm trying to work through. And that's just me. I realize there are board members who are like, this is great, and they have the vision and they have the appetite for risk and they can understand what's the likelihoods and all of that. I am open to persuasion. I would love it for someone to talk me through this to the point where I am like, this sounds great, let's do it. I just am trying to be frank about, you asked for feedback from the board, I'm trying to be frank about where I am with this, which is persuade me.
But, well, I don't know if I want to be the persuading one, but I would say I think I can offer what I would recommend. Don't do 1 if you won't do 2. Mm-hmm. I agree with that logic. We have enough funding right now. If we're granted the 50-50 addition on phase 2, I do agree. Phase 1, building a roundabout, we've all talked about the accident. It's not that actually high.
Right.
We don't have, I don't think we're suggesting, the staff is not suggesting, you've got a big problem at this intersection. You need to solve that no matter what you build.
Yes.
But if you build the north section, at least, though the connection, even if alternate 3 doesn't come immediately, I think without question that alternate 3 connector is a desire of everyone to have. But even if that does not come immediately, you do have a totally opened new corridor of transportation that the city doesn't currently have. So you're closing that. Now, someone could argue, well, you can go out to 32, you can go, but that's not really developable within, for the city proper and that type of circumstances there. But so I would say that first. I do think those 2 should be linked more closely together. I don't think the same is true on the south, and I don't think the same is true for alternate 3. I think alternate 3, because we haven't even started the design yet, which we are planning already doing, we can begin that, and yet we can also in haste be pursuing funding for that. Maybe the governor ends up approving and we have a good year in Missouri at large and that money comes through. That would be very significant for that roadway section. I think we could execute that. Maybe we get a bill grant. Maybe I think we can Again, I'm trying to answer, if you want to build the road, I'm going to try to build the road for you. You know, I could try to figure it out. So incrementalism is an element that is necessary, I believe, with this significant of a project. But that first increment, I do believe, is phase 1 and 2 together. The next increment, I think, is alternate 3. I would say the south intersection and the south roadway, if we can get MoDOT to separate those, I would be very happy with that, because I think the potential of motivating developers or just being ready for grants and all on that south roadway section is kind of leave that out for the future right now.
And am I remembering correctly that the south portion is the portion that is most likely to correlate to increased revenue for the city with development and potential sales tax revenues, and that is less likely on the northern portion?
I think because the south section is much larger, and because the developable portion of it is almost the entire route, versus there are sections of the north section that are not as developable for a commercial development. That is true, that the south section has a higher potential rate of sales tax return when it ultimately is built, but it has a much higher price tag also right now, because we don't have the funding for that. So,
Mr. Wilson.
Are you done with
I am. I'm sorry.
No,
Yes,
you're fine.
Jay.
I just want to make sure
Nope, you're good.
you were heard and done. We're talking about, future and stuff like that, thinking about this project. If we do complete this, or however much we do, I mean, we have to think about, we're taking out a loan from ourselves, but we have to think about, okay, now that's more services. We have to have fire, police, maybe city road crew and all that stuff as well. So if we're taking out this much loan already, how are we going to be able to afford the either more staff or more coverage area or more maintenance stuff like that?
I would say, I do think the only reason to endeavor on an infrastructure project like this for the city is to incentivize development and growth that is intended to offset those types of costs. Sure. I don't think it's significant enough to pay for itself. You're not going to build a road and in 10 years you've just paid for the road because everything pops up like that. Sure. But I think in the long term, the demands that come along the roadway should be offset by, that should be what's contemplated, is that if we build this, we believe that it would not only be a transportation benefit, but also maybe a development benefit, and therefore will offset, because you're right, there will be added costs. Someday when we have to overlay it, that's going to take money from our operations budget and that kind of thing. But you would desire to see that offset by actual commercial development over there. And in Bolivar particularly, that's the only offset you have.
My second question, sorry. My second question was, Alderman Neal was talking about the future board really kind of put it out there like, we're not going to touch this money. Am I wrong on that? The previous board said, hey, I know we've had some constituents here as well saying, oh, we're not supposed to touch that money. Again, I wasn't on the board when this happened, so can we kind of deep dive into that and saying, hey, we promised that. And again, I understand that in the future we have to do something.
When we first happened, the board said, let's cool our jets. We wanted to make sure that there wasn't any incentive or any temptation to just burn through it. After a while, I think we came, and Alexis, you can correct me, to the conclusion that it's an asset for the city. It was sold an asset, and now it needs to be used for future long-term physical assets, is my reminding on it. But we also set it up to where it took a lot of layers to get to that point, so that we didn't just jump into it and willy-nilly get rid of it. So like Alexis said, I think there's room for persuasion if we can make the cost-benefit analysis come together and make it make sense, for the long term. Now, I see this road as, this is a 100-year asset. This isn't a building that could be torn down or reused or turned into something else. This is going to be there for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's certainly a major infrastructure change.
So, for me, from where I'm at, I see it as a candidate to use some of those funds to make this a possibility and get it moving down the road. Safety of the intersection, the traffic patterns, we're growing. we're running out of commercial space. Realistically, it's getting eaten up real quick. And there's going to be a time where we're going to have to do something a little more aggressive, and nobody wants to annex anything.
Yeah.
And I get that, and I don't want to force anybody to annex, but now we've got a potential for freely annexed, per se, to make it an asset for the city, to make a new corridor for traffic. It checks a lot of boxes for me, so I'm very, about 99% in favor of moving this forward.
Great. Mr. Sagerson, please.
Even though the north part is not suited for commercial, it's suited more for residential. Those are going to be new people moving into Bolivar. They're going to spend money in Bolivar, so we're getting sales tax off of them. So is it going to be the bigger bang is going to be the south end, but even the north end is going to give us a bang.
And there will be some commercial.
Yeah, be some, but
yeah,
not like
absolutely.
Not like
correct.
You look at on the south.
And here's the other thing.
And
that side's growing up as it is. I mean,
that north side is growing, but I think we've got to bet on ourselves and at least do the first and second group second and get that started, and then if we borrow the money from ourselves and pay it back, that's fine. But I just think that's an asset. We don't have debt, and I think doing the 1 and 2 is the smartest thing. Combine those and get them done.
And I totally agree with you. My concern is the alternate phase 3. Like, that's the one thing that we heard time and time again. So I want to make sure that if we do 1 and 2, that we are also dead set on the alternate phase 3 to loop that in to seeing, because what I don't want to say is, yeah, I'll vote for phase 1 and 2, and then something comes up and we never do alternate phase 3, and we're stuck with. I think Ray Leiniger probably made the greatest point of the town hall of, you're correcting, one potential dangerous intersection, but creating a one that could be potentially worse. Like you even said, that one's not, D and 32. Yeah, there's accidents, but we're going to be creating potentially something that's worse than that. So I need to make sure. I mean, I'm all for doing all 3 of them, but obviously finding funding, if we could find funding for the alternate, phase 3. So my question is, what do we need to decide tonight? Like, do we need to say?
What's that? Yeah, go ahead.
I might add one thing. I don't have any specific numbers, but I think if alternate 3 was done at the same time as 1 and 2, we could save a little bit of cost from the north segment, because as it stands now, the current plan was to just end the east loop at Buffalo. Buffalo would be the through movement, right? They wouldn't have to stop. If we did alternate 3 and were able to do alternate 3 at the same time, we wouldn't have to correct the grade on Buffalo to improve the sight distance, because Buffalo would be coming to a stop and the east loop would be able to continue through. So we could actually, again, I don't have specific numbers. It wouldn't be a ton, but we would be able to kind of reduce the scope of work on Buffalo and really not touch Buffalo hardly at all, other than tying in the east loop to it. So I just wanted to add that that kind of plays into it too. So
that would just be my thing. I totally agree with you, Sags. So my question is, for tonight, direction? Are you actually wanting a vote?
I mean, to the degree the board wants to give me that direction, I mean, I'd like to work through these questions to get I tried to boil down as succinct as what I felt would communicate to me what would give me good faith to communicate.
Do you want to vote on each of those questions?
However the board wants to give me direction on that. I mean, I'm okay with people saying, yep, that's what we want you to try to do. I mean, I think you're acting in good faith towards me. You're not going to
Wouldn't we
turn that
also-
around.
Wouldn't we also need to have a clear idea of the exact numbers? I mean, if we're going to,
Well, this is not.
If we're going to loan the money to ourselves.
not
Yes.
what
So
we're doing,
after,
though.
yeah, after this, and even that could add some clarity. After this, if that's what we are saying, and then now, Thomas and Natalie and I know now this is how much money we need to plan for. We're going to come back with a plan of how to directly fund this. What we need to know first is it even our intention to fund it? Now, of course, we could come back and you could say, no, we don't. Then we don't want to do it. I mean, this isn't, binding.
Tonight is not binding.
Yeah,
Tonight is
we
just
could, I mean,
giving
we
you-
could go out to bid and it could come back $10 million for the roundabout, and we could say, well,
Never mind.
I guess we can't build a roundabout anymore. I mean, that could happen, but yeah. What's that?
Maybe.
Or it could come back less. Hopefully it will come back less. Yes, I am hopeful of that because roundabouts are expensive. But so I guess what I'm asking is is the board on that phase one, is the board ready to proceed with construction of the intersection of the roundabout, the estimated cost right now being 1.4 million?
Yes.
Independently?
And want me to pursue that. Well, I don't think any of them are independent in the sense that
I think you
one,
just
two,
questions.
I'm just trying to go through these questions so that I understand what's being communicated.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then, so
Yes,
I'm
I
under.
think we talked about this earlier. Would it be a vote for everything or be a vote for one thing at a time?
Just the questions on the sheet.
Yeah, I'm just asking
It's not even a vote.
those,
or
yeah.
At least an
So the
approval from the
direction on
board.
phase one, my thoughts would be, I would give the direction, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody,
Yeah.
I mean, pending how much it's going to
well, sure,
cost.
but he's
But
gonna
yeah.
Sure,
bring that
we're gonna come back to
I
that.
mean,
Yep. So similar question, and this one hinges on, I believe right now should hinge on, if MoDOT grants our request of the governor's cost share to increase to 50/50, is the board ready to proceed with right-of-way and construction on the intersection and the north roadway? So continuing the roadway from the intersection. Okay, you want me to continue to pursue that? Estimated cost there right now would be
That seems-
2.3
that
million.
seems to be a board consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
We can raise hands if we need to.
plan to do it at all, if we plan to do it at all, like it's not going to be cheaper the longer we wait.
Right.
It's been my experience. I would say if we plan to do it at all, we start kind of moving forward with phase one.
Yep.
And at least see how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think the best clarity for me would be, do you want me to ask, this is, I think, a bigger ask. I think moving from the 25/75 to 50/50, I really think we have some good traction there. I think the ask of, I think it's worth it to ask, but I think the ask of including the including the connector, that alternate 3 in the governor's cost share, that was never in the scope originally. This would be changing. We'd already have to amend the contract. That's going to be my argument. Is we're already going to have to change it. So let's just add this scope as well. But does the board want me to pursue that so that we can try to fund that alternate 3 more quickly? We would at least have those funds. Okay. My recommendation on phase 3 is the regular phase 3, the south intersection on Springfield Avenue, is to request MoDOT to separate our governor's cost share, and then if they permit that, meaning that they would not hold the rest of the roadway connected to the intersection. And if they permit that, I'd want to come back to you and say, do you want to continue that? But is it okay with you for me to ask them to separate that so that we might fund just the intersection and have the roadway ready to begin there?
I think is that a board consensus?
Yes.
We need winks and nods?
I'm mostly listening for large objections. So if I'm not saying that no objection, silence might be an objection, but
I think
I'm listening for
concern
I'm listening
is
for
Sandy
significant.
Lane. I don't think it's wide enough to hold the traffic that everyone thinks they're going to shove onto it.
Yeah.
I agree. I think
It's-
in the realm of incrementalism, we only have control over certain parts. But I do agree that Sandy Lane, it was originally desired to be part of the project. I think that desire hasn't gone anywhere, hasn't gone out of this place. Maybe it will increase outside of this place as well. That
Do we
desire.
have a wink and a nod? Oh, step forward, Steve. Please, go ahead.
Real quick on that, whenever we were looking at it originally, there is enough right of way there to go to full 3 lanes. So it would match the roadway cross section of the other portions that we're planning. There is enough to go in between the fences and do that there.
How wide is the right of way through there?
I want to say, what is it, like 40, do you remember what it is?
Beyond what the road is now?
And you're talking about the connector?
Sandy Lane itself, it's basically,
It's not very wide.
it's basically fence row to fence row is the existing right-of-way.
You also have power lines on one side and power lines on the other,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, we
how
looked
we
at it,
deal with-
when we looked at it originally, it's,
Can be wide.
there's not a ton of room. Like, you don't have room to spare much, but you can fit in the full roadway cross-section and the sidewalk beside it.
Or even at least like a shoulders
Yeah,
addition. I mean,
yeah,
there
you-
would be other options to.
'Cause there's good sized ditch on
improve that
both
road.
sides, I think.
Yeah, we would enclose that into a channel. We would put that in a pipe.
Though, isn't it? I mean, that's,
Yeah, we're not
Yeah, we,
suggesting it in this scope. We're just
Yeah.
he's
we
He's
looked at it
allaying
and,
some fears of mine.
we looked at it originally, and the county decided not to partake as part of this. But there is enough room if you don't waste any room to basically fit everything in there. Optimally, you would always want it a little bit wider there
Wouldn't
as far
we
as right away goes.
eventually end up with the same situation that we have on Springfield Avenue now? I mean, no room to actually widen a road if it needs it in the future to handle more traffic. Especially if you're going to,
well, you could. I mean, what he's
you're wanting more
what
commercial
Jason's
out there, so
yeah, but
you're
what
gonna be adding
Jason
even
there
more,
is
needing more traffic.
speaking to is in the existing right of way.
Right.
I mean,
I understand.
any
but
roadway, additional
we're
right of way
being asked
could
to
be
plan for the
acquired.
future, so I'm trying to bring up thoughts for the future.
Yeah.
Because those need to be thought about now instead of 20, 30 years from now, like where everybody now criticizes Springfield Avenue.
Yeah. So to touch on that, whenever we had preliminary talks, we talked about what solutions we could have out there. Currently, that's all county.
Yes.
The county wished to not partake.
Right.
If they wanted to upgrade that in the future, or say they wanted to become part of the city in the future, depending on what that land use ends up being, with the current setbacks of everything there, you could widen further. Say somebody wanted to come in there, commercially develop the entire thing, and buy it all up, join the city, commercially develop it. You could fit in 5 lanes there. It could look like a, not to scare everybody, but you could make it look like a Sunshine Street or something if you wanted to. That's 3 lanes. Springfield Avenue here holds a massive amount of traffic, and it's a nightmare to get out on Saturday at noon whenever you try to go somewhere and turn left. But if we build a second one of those, then hopefully it alleviates some of this one, and that one doesn't get so bad. You bring up a very valid point. 30, 40 years from now, what if that fills up and we cannot get the right of way? On the new portions, we'll be able to easily handle that because we're going to get the right of way up front.
Right.
On the
I realize that.
existing portions,
Right.
without the county sitting at the table, we are very limited for now. In talks with the county, don't know if I suspect that they would probably revisit everything once this got started and in. That said, the county as a whole has always had a policy of donated right-of-way, absolutely no eminent domain on the county side, things of that nature. They've been very good to the landowners. I'm a landowner. They should probably take some of mine to make the road wider, to be honest with you. But I kind of like the potholes. People don't speed. But the county would have to make that decision at some point, or the people out there may, if they sell it and want to make a commercial development out there, especially if they join the city, which is back under planning and zoning. And the county's got a lot of good benefits, but one of the negatives in this case is no planning and zoning. So you can't really mandate that somebody get a new driveway permit, gives you the right of way that you would need for the future. It's just an unfortunate part of the county. It's a fortunate part if you live and want to develop or have 10 driveways in the county. You don't have to ask permission, but it makes it messy. There's no way around that. We do have a way to get to 3 lanes, 4 lanes. We do not without additional right-of-way. You are correct there.
Mr.
It's
Right.
tight.
Go ahead and finish, please.
Go ahead.
No,
I can revisit. Go ahead.
Sarah, just to be advocate to one of your points about, Springfield, I think we all agree Springfield is horrible. I mean, it's traffic, it's backed up. But also, if kind of like what you were saying, if we take half of that away from that, that's tax dollars. I mean, how many times do you have to go to Springfield, like, I got to stop and grab something. But if I make that bypass, it's like, oh, well, I'll just go to get it in Springfield.
I think you'd be surprised how much traffic goes through because it's the only option.
Sure, no, I agree. I'm just playing devil's advocate
I know,
there.
I know.
And
we
you can
might
have both
lose
arguments
a
with
little
that.
bit
I mean,
of it,
I
but
could, I could devil's advocate the other way. There are people who don't go on Springfield Avenue because of the traffic that may, if the traffic's a little bit lighter, go to Walmart more or go to McDonald's more often. So,
Yeah, this certainly, the whole thing hinges on private developers believing that
Sure.
Bolivar's a good place to develop and seeing the East Loop as the next positive development location. So without a doubt, if that doesn't happen, then it's just a bypass
It's just
or
a
whatever
bypass,
someone might refer to it like that. But
Kyle, do you know the last time that the county weighed in on the project? I feel like I'd heard
I
last
think
that it hadn't
was-
been since Lothies many years ago. And I wasn't sure if we had had any conversations more recently to know if their
I mean, we
perspective or
we
opinion
asked them for a
was
letter
different.
specifically of support related to our build grant and did not receive that returned.
Oh, interesting.
So
I think one of the
if that-
commissioners spoke at our
one of the
public
commissioners came and spoke at the public forum, but as far as a direct action, the last thing I know is they didn't return that
forum. Yeah,
requested letter.
that's the
so,
same here.
Okay. That's useful information. Thank you.
so I think my last question, I think it generally has been answered in the conversation just for the sake of clarity. When it comes to phase 4, my recommendation is that we don't take any real additional action except for to continue the engineering and likely to come back and recommend the acquisition of the right-of-way in that area as well. As far as any construction on the actual roadway portion, I think we need to wait for additional funding. All of these things are subject to continued pursuit for other funding, including and maybe especially the build grant or any other options that are out there.
So do you feel like you have your wink and nod to move ahead in the manner that you are requesting?
I think so. I mean, the requests that I've detailed in here to MoDOT, I'm going to make them in earnest and ask them to come to that 50-50, and I'm going to ask them to include the alternate 3 in that, and then with that information, whatever they happen to give to us, we'll be able to come back with a direct funding plan. And in the meantime of that, I'm going to continue to work with Great River to finish the engineering work that they're doing as they complete that and move into the right-of-way phase. So
Yeah.
I feel like I have enough. Now, we're going to have some other things to approve, like cost share agreements and things like that, but that'll come to you by ordinance, but it'll all be in conjunction with this direction.
Yeah.
So-
So the dollars and cents and the decimal points are down the road.
Correct. But they're going to be coming in conjunction with this direction. So,
Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yep.
All right.
Moving on.
Have we completed item 2?
2 hours into the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Lee, could you step forward, please?
yes, I think can be quicker on this item. I certainly hope. You're aware that we applied for a grant, Land and Water Conservation Fund grant, for what we've just generally referred to as the Town Branch Trail Park. That is south of Broadway, north of Walnut, along the portion of Town Branch that runs there east and west. This is just an initial estimate. We've engaged in conversations directly enough that I felt I needed to come talk to the board so that you know some of the dollars in consideration. The intent of this is DCBC owns that property. They actually donated some of that Town Branch Trail portion. There is an access way. The city, as part of that donation, was granted an access way that lies on the far left side of this drawing. You can actually see the pins indicated in that drawing. But that access way is not extremely convenient given the other drainage way that would have to be crossed. So we've communicated with, also it offers a difficulty with MoDOT granting us another access point. So we've discussed with MoDOT as well as with DCBC about the potential of having a shared access driveway, and with that then would come shared costs. So that's what this is. All that I'm really wanting you to know is I need to keep having those conversations in relation to the grant, because the grant is ultimately going to need an easement and approval. And of course, for them to grant the easement and approval, they're going to want to know that we're negotiating on the costs and the shared costs and things like that. So I really am just trying to bring to you the numbers as I know them right now. As soon as we get the final details on the grant in October, that's what's projected, then I would be able to come hopefully at that time back with an easement as well as, an agreement that actually directly shares the cost. So are there any questions about that? Is that making sense to everybody, or any questions about those dollars? Again, these are estimates that obviously ultimately would be based on actual invoices and things like that. Right now, it's based on just projections from DCBC that they provided. Okay. I think it's a good thing for both the city and the developer. It helps us share a cost, but also gives us a good access to the park there.
Yep.
And a parking lot for it.
Discussion from the board, please.
I think it's a great idea. Move forward.
Seeing none. That's a voice vote.
No.
I just, that direction is enough for me. Mayor.
Okay, because we discussed this earlier in planning tonight. Thought we would require a vote.
No.
But you're just wanting to move forward?
Yep.
With discussion?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes,
all
sir,
right,
that's
all
okay
right,
with
fine,
me. Yes.
fine. I thought we were spending some money. Okay.
Not now.
Not yet.
We'll get there.
Okay. Mr. Relford, could you
Yes, sir.
inform us about our air conditioning?
Yeah, it wouldn't be a meeting unless we've had some kind of HVAC problems, and so here we are. Boardroom, we're down to one compressor. We should have 3 compressors working for this area. So I think we can limp it along for a while, but at some point, we're gonna have to get this system fixed in here. I know we've done a lot of repairs and a lot of fixes.
Can I interject? I think as like a point of order, we skipped a conversation at the end of that East Loop discussion for the connector route contract. Those 2 options. I didn't see that it was. I'm sorry that it was in that same agenda item. I just assumed in my mind that
Where
it
is
was
it now, Mr. Lee?
separated. It should have been item 2. The end of item 2 was a discussion of the scope and fee summary that you have for the north extension segment. I think it's pretty clear from the conversation that there is intention to continue that. This is what we're calling alternate 3, but there are 2 options there presented, and I know Austin could speak to that more directly if you have questions, but essentially what is being asked is, do we want them to, the scope of work in option 1, to design the road to be that 3-lane road with sidewalk and all, just like the rest of the East Loop, or design a road that is smaller in scope, just a 2-lane, more similar to the existing Sandy Lane? It would still include the right-of-way for the full of the East Loop, and would still include the grading, I think is intended for that section, so to prepare for a future. But again, this is just the design portion. Then of course the cost estimate would be built off of, are we doing the smaller road or the wider road? And that's really the question. Do you want them to design for one or the other?
Discussion from the board?
We're building
Do
for
we
the
understand the question clearly?
We're building for the future. I say we build for the future.
Yep. The wider one.
Okay. Option 1.
Yes, please.
Does that seem
Okay.
to be consensus?
That might be good to have a vote, because then we'll get this to get a contract and agreement on,
Okay.
but it might be.
Would you like to have a vote?
Yes, I think just since there are 2 options set there.
Okay, well, just all in favor, someone, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
This part of the,
cost share that we don't have to pay for?
No, the grant for engineering.
It would not. The HUD engineering grant was scoped for the previous project. So these
Okay, so
funds
this will be
would,
above and beyond, and we will owe it no matter what.
that's
won't
correct.
get
We would, I mean,
reimbursed.
once we ultimately sign the contract and the agreement, we'll be, we'll expend those funds. So- Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So, yes and no.
Okay.
So,
I'd like the answer to yes and the answer to no.
okay. So the way that engineering contracts work with us is you sign an agreement.
Mhm.
Austin and his team work on it hourly. We use real-time software, so I can tell you as long as somebody did their timesheets, which I'm the worst employee / owner for doing my own timesheet. But as long as they do their timesheets, I can tell you at the end of the day how much we've got invested into your project or this project, okay? If you want to terminate our services or decide you do not want to build the road, what you will do is Kyle will call us and say, please stop working on the project. We'll say, do you want us to button it up or you just want us to terminate it and drop it? He'll tell us button it up, which usually means take a day or two, box it up, put all the notes, make sure everything's saved properly. That way, if it ever restarts, it's not chaos. Or he'll say, nope, we're never going to touch it again. Just stop immediately. And we just drop it in chaos wherever it is. Just throw the files in a folder and be done. Your lawyer will send us a letter saying, hey, we want to stop this. We have 15 days, typically, is what most engineering contracts to respond. You don't put a bag over Austin's head or anything like that. You have to promise not to do that.
Good call.
For 48 hours. But we stop billing basically immediately. We button everything up, and then we terminate the contract. The only times we've ever terminated contracts were because people just didn't want to do a project anymore. That's okay. We're in this, our clients are 20, 30-year client, 20, 29-year, because we're not quite 30 years old, long-term clients. So you'll have infrastructure needs tomorrow, so we don't get too stressed out about it. We'll say, okay, we'll cancel this contract. We'll stop where we're at. You pay for what we've done. We don't bill anymore, so it's not a lump sum. You're not out $200,000 still. If we spend $15,000 on it, you decided you want to go a different direction, you pay $15,000. You don't pay the full amount. You're not locked into anything we haven't spent. Mayor Stevens.
Does that make everyone more comfortable with that then?
Yes and no.
It is out of pocket. I don't have a grant for you yet.
And we will get another change of contract, scope of costs change on this, right? Because of this.
Well, we'll get a contract in accordance with this option 1 if that's what you approve here in just a moment. If option 1 is approved, then we'll get a contract with that scope as described.
So separate contract.
Yes, this is not the ordinance and
But
contract.
in contrast to the testimony that we just got, that is not a commitment to $300,000. That is a commitment to continue work, and we will.
It's kind of a commitment to the $300,000.
I mean, unless we want to cease working on the project,
Yeah.
but yes, I mean, we
It is the
can't.
monetary commitment is the-
Yeah. And I will say the only other aspect, I'll probably include this in the next build grant application. It would count as part of our matching funds. There would be potential for that. But yeah, I mean, I think the city, needs to expect to expend this just because don't start doing it if you're not going to finish it. That was kind of my point, is there's not a reason to begin this and spend $15,000 or $100,000 but not end up with a designed road. That's fine if you don't want to design it, but my suggestion would be, once you've entered into the contract, the intent is to complete it. If we have some catastrophic
Neil?
change.
Just curious, how soon would you be starting working on this portion of the project, and how many hours? I mean, I'm not looking for exact. I'm just trying to get an idea of how quickly we would be eating into that $300,000 that you would be already starting to work on that, or if it's like, look, we've got you guys all kinds of engineering work to do, and you're like, yeah, you contracted me, but I'm not gonna be able to even start on this part of it for 3 months or 6 months, or does that make sense at all, what I'm asking?
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I think we could start on it almost. I mean, obviously we have staff that we'd have to schedule, so
Sure.
I would say the soonest we could start on it. I believe the next board meeting where you would vote on it would be at the end of the month, and so probably sometime in October, we could probably realistically start on it if we were going as fast as we can. But if you said hold off 3 months, we'll work that into our schedule and can make that happen. I would say at our busiest point during the previous phases in engineering and design, we were probably billing anywhere between 20 and 40,000 a month, maybe. But again, that was at our busiest time when we had 2 or 3 people working on it.
No, that's super helpful. Thank you.
But that may not be how this plays out, obviously. So.
But it gives us an idea of sort of with each month that passes, like once you're able to start work on this portion of it in earnest, say October-ish, unless directed otherwise, that it would be, okay, of that 300,000, we're incurring maybe 30 grand a month as we progress with each month that passes. And so then if we wanted to decide not to progress, like that just helps me to visualize if it was like, okay, well, if you blink, the $300,000 is already, we've done all that work. That helps me put it in context. So thank you very much for that.
And the software that Jason mentioned that we use, we also, with our invoices, send an hourly breakdown of who worked on the project and how many hours. And so, all that information is available.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Relford, since we ask you to find a home for these funds, do you have a personal perspective on how should we, if you think this is something we should go ahead and commit to?
How are we paying for this?
Yeah, we'll probably take some out of street funds, and we might have to take some out of capital, and for next year, we're gonna have to search around for it. We
Are
can
you
come up
comfortable
with
with what we're doing?
Yeah, I think if I am. I think if that's the direction the board wants to go, we can make it happen.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to go with option 1.
Do we have, okay. For that, wouldn't we need a roll call? Okay, she says no. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. We have approved option 1.
Back to HVAC.
HVAC.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, thank you, Kyle. I'd wondered. I was like, oh, this is a lovely little extra document in here that apparently we're not talking about. So
Not near as exciting, but yes, HVAC. We are having systems problems in here. You can tell it's kind of cool, but it's not perfect in here. That's because we're only running on one compressor. Our first kind of estimate was like $35,000. We would put that out for bid, and I think we can limp along until the next fiscal year and include that in the budget. So I'm not really looking for an answer from the board right now, but it's more informational
Let
and
us know what's going on with why we are perspiring.
Right, and we are even thinking about maybe potential options of doing the mini splits to see if that's maybe a cheaper way we can do the boardroom. As you know, we've kind of like Frankenstein this system together in the city hall. It's not perfect. I know you're probably thinking we've already fixed this a few times. Well, we have. We've spent a lot of money on it, but unfortunately, this is where we are. And anytime you have a big, building like this, HVAC systems are expensive. So,
Mr. Ross,
that was going to be my question. Is I feel like we fixed the HVAC in the boardroom like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Does it not come with some kind of? I feel like
I don't think it was. I don't think it was a boardroom we
Yeah,
fixed.
the problem is we didn't. It has so many elements. What's wrong right now is there's 3 compressors that function off of this. 2 of them are down, and only one is operational.
And so it's just
but
the
what was
boardroom?
fixed before was the chilling tower, which the systems use, but it was a wholly separate element. And here's another element.
Okay.
It's a frustratingly complex system with then frustratingly high dollar.
What's even more frustrating, my office and in our conference room, I don't know if anybody came to visit me today, it wasn't working either. So,
Didn't we do the conference room last summer?
Yeah, that does have a control board on warranty that we're receiving. They have it, they're shipping to us. But yeah,
Thomas's office part of that unit with the warranty on it?
I don't. Some of that is hard even to identify, but
Yeah.
I believe they may be connected. It's Yeah, but we're having an
I
issue.
swear it was
We're having
just
an
last
issue with the
summer.
system wide because of the chilling tower and
Yeah,
stuff. So
the same company to fix all of our HVAC
We
units?
do, because.
not in this case, actually. That one was Multicraft. The other one is U.S. Engineering, and they're both having problems. So
Yeah, and we have to bring the big commercial companies in because it's so complicated with our system. The mom and pops doing the residential stuff aren't going to take this on. So I'm sorry. It's just the
Okay.
way-
Moving on. Mr. Lee, could you step forward, please? We had this discussion the other day, did we not, about motorized play vehicles?
yes, and I think
so. Just kind of bring us up to date on what the discussion has been.
yeah, and I think that both Todd and Chief Johns could speak to this further if needed as well. So what was asked of the staff was to consider a similar layout. I think it was from O'Fallon, Missouri, and all that. And essentially what we did was do an analysis of what was existing in our codes, and then a discussion of what do we think from a staff would be a good recommendation to start the conversation. So really what you have in front of you is a table that says, this is the staff discussion, says this is where we think maybe these things should be used or not used. And now it's up to you to kind of just look through those boxes and say, is that where you want them used or not used? And then once you tell us that, we're going to have to formulate some ordinances that direct that use, or, prohibition or whatever may be the case. So I don't know if you need me to walk through that. I mean, you guys can just take that item by item if you have questions about why the staff recommended that. Chief Johns is here, and Todd and myself, and we were involved in those
Chief,
conversations.
would you care
Thomas.
to come kind of walk us through some of this stuff about the discussion of the other day?
I've got one here, Chief.
What comments would you like me to talk
Well,
about?
we kind of went through all this, and I suppose there's nothing more than what we see in front of us. I think we talked about trying to uncomplicate the enforcement, and we were talking about this class. Class A and B is okay, but C and D are not, and an officer was supposed to decide if that's a C or D or an A or B. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on that any at all.
If it's helpful, I'll just try to make a really straightforward, kind of a quick analysis, and just say that the things we considered were exactly that. How can we make this that would be good for all of the community to be able to just look at this and quickly determine what's allowed, what's not allowed, and where, and have it be as simple as possible? Because to your point, this could be made incredibly complicated, because there's, especially with technology today, there are so many new electric types of play vehicles and movement vehicles and all of this. It can get incredibly complex. And many of the different examples that we used as references, some of them were ridiculously complex, to the point to where even the work that they had done to create this very complex document that they've had in some of the cities that we looked at, me as a community member in their area, it would take me a long time to decipher it. And that's not what we wanted here. We wanted something very simple for everybody in the community. And then to your other point of just enforcement, there may be some of these situations where we would actually want enforcement, because there might be a very specific safety reason that we don't want a particular type of vehicle in a particular place. We also wanted it to be very straightforward for the law enforcement officers who would be enforcing it. So those were all the things that we kind of talked about. And I don't know, Todd, was there any other maybe big picture overview items that you thought of from a park perspective in coming up with just this first draft?
Yeah, we've consolidated some of the different play vehicles, and when we look at sidewalks, we should have put like / just parks as well included in that category, so we can make a change to that, because
Okay.
you've seen these play vehicles. I was out digging the other day, and I saw somebody tooling around on one of those little mini bikes, right? So those are, I think I've seen a lot of those lately. So those are decisions we need to make.
And go ahead, please.
Why the 15 miles per hour on the e-bikes on the sidewalk? What drove to that decision?
I think it's more of a safety issue than anything, and also pedestrians that are walking.
Yes. So I'm thinking 10 miles per hour on the sidewalks.
Yeah, ultimately, I think for the board to discuss that particular element, we did look at. There's some classes of e-bikes that break at I believe 20. So we came down from that on that class. So some cities will just allow certain classes, and then they'll say class 3 you can't have because it can go 20 or it goes over 20 and all that. So that was one, as we kind of looked at those elements, and then looked at, really we're just looking at what other cities do, and thinking about what someone might be able to perform on just a regular pedaled bicycle. What was reasonably considered, which it may be that 10 is. That's our intent was to just give it somewhere to start the conversation. If you guys have a more driven opinion, I don't think any of our conversation was it better be 15 or
I
whatever.
would suggest 10 as someone who uses the sidewalks consistently. Coming toward a cyclist on an e-bike, if you're running toward them and they're going 15 and say you're going 6 miles an hour, so a 10-minute mile, and they're not fully engaged, and they don't necessarily move out of the way. I feel, and based on my research, a lot of the cities were picking 10 miles per hour, and on an e-bike or a regular bike, 10 is fine. You don't need to be going. 15 is what someone on the road would ride as a cyclist, not.
Is that a realistically, that's fine, but is that a realistically enforceable measure?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that are very reasonable to put down in post that might be difficult to actually enforce. I mean, there's a lot of things like that, but being able to say, hey, this is 10 miles an hour. I mean, same as, you might see in parking lots for vehicles. You have posted signs that say, real low speed limits for pedestrians and that sort of thing.
Of course, we were visiting about undue confusion with the officer. And by enforcing, most of the time, it would. They're not likely to arrest a bicyclist, but they could.
Enforcement
could
also
be. Have the authority to say, you need to slow down.
Of course, I agree.
So the whole
I'm in agreement with a lower speed limit for safety of walkers.
The whole reason I brought this up was the safety of pedestrians, the safety of the people on these motorized vehicles, because nationwide there's accidents happening. There's people that are getting run over. They're just a magnet for accidents. I know they're fun, and I would love to have one too. Some of them go for 60 miles an hour. That's great, but it's not safe. And outside of the enforcement value of it, I'll just get started. The motorized play bikes, the little pocket bikes and things, I'm okay if those aren't allowed in either place. They're usually little kids. Yes, they're usually little kids. They don't have a license anyway. I don't think it's safe to be in the road, zipping through intersections and tootling around. I know they're fun too, but they're also designed to be an off-road or in a different environment. So I'm not terribly thrilled with.
Which one is that, sir?
The motorized.
Next to the last one.
The little pocket bikes, the little.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, they're borderline dirt bikes. If you really want to boil it down, I would rather, unless it follows the same rules that a vehicle has to follow, brake lights, headlights, turn signals, it shouldn't be in the middle of the road. Now, bikes are somewhat of an exception because they're especially pedal powered. You're not going to be zipping around at 30 miles an hour. But if it's motorized, I'm of the opinion that it needs to follow the same rules as a motor vehicle for the safety of everybody.
So where would you, sir? Where would you suggest what? we're going to be drafting an ordinance, and so
probably several
where
ordinances.
where would you want to make a separate would you suggest a separate category?
He said
or
none.
some of the,
No, I would
just
take,
Motorbikes, pocket bikes, disallowed.
give the police officer a break and take the decision-making process out of the equation and just say a few of these don't meet the minimum requirements for safety to be on the road. Some of them can be on the sidewalks, you know, again, if they're limited and used appropriately. And I don't necessarily want you guys, I don't want you guys out there with a radar gun trying to clock a kid on a bike going 10 miles over or 15. That's unrealistic.
Speeding on a bike is usually just like reckless and dangerous.
That's, yes, if they're zipping through intersections, they're weaving around, they're noticeably, potentially could cause an accident and hurt themselves or hurt someone else, that's when I would want you guys to step in and say, hey, that's not appropriate. There's some countries, and probably not going to ever happen in the United States, that are even allow the usage of those 16 and under, won't even allow it on e-bikes or e-scooters or some of those things. I don't know that we need to get that aggressive, but I think people need to be reminded that these are dangerous and they need to take some safety precautions.
So Justin, from what I'm hearing you say, would it be fair to say that your categories would be, and this is sort of also incorporating what you said, if you're on the sidewalk, whatever kind of vehicle you're in, you don't need to go faster than 10 miles an hour on a sidewalk, whatever kind of vehicle you're in. And if you're in the roadway and motorized, whatever kind of vehicle you're in, these are the rules. And then then you have that.
Yep.
Like that does, I think, clean it up for the understanding of citizens to say, does my vehicle have a motor? Am I in the roadway? These are the rules. Am I on a sidewalk? This is the speed limit. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yep.
To
E-bike can go 30 miles an hour. It can have a tail light and a turn signals.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well,
reasonable expectation.
So for the motorized plate vehicles, would you switch allowed to would you switch it to prohibited and allowed and then limit it to 10 miles an hour?
No, it would.
No.
Those would just be disallowed.
Inside city limits. That
Because they're too fast for sidewalks.
and
Unless-
they're mostly
Yeah,
young kids.
I would think so, but I just wanted to see what.
Unless on a street it's licensed,
Yeah.
like it has.
If they have,
I don't know actually the right term there. Registered, licensed.
registered and licensed
Okay.
driver, and
So
you know the whole.
16 plus.
Yeah.
Your whole driver.
Related to that, as I was reading this, and I'm genuinely asking, because I noticed this lovely local streets only under the one that you were looking at, and I was like, oh, right, because we have different kinds of streets. I love that. And then I started going back and saying, so are we saying when we say allowed, you can do this down Springfield Avenue? And then I thought to myself, oh, regular skateboards and inline skates down Springfield Avenue. And then I thought, segways down Springfield Avenue. And I had questions. So maybe that's fine. No, I know, but I meant,
Aldrich.
sorry. So yes, I meant as far as the heavy level of traffic, not specific. I was just trying to think, like, as opposed to local roadways. Now, I realize that those are maybe not as zippy, some of those things. A skateboard is not, but I was just thinking, like, you're just a person on a board. If you get in any kind of argument with anything else that's moving, you will come off significantly the worse for that encounter.
Sure.
So that was where the ones that came to mind for me was the ones that are just a person, just on a skateboard, on skates, on a Segway. If we're fine with them being on a street, I'm not saying I necessarily think they should be on a sidewalk. I mean, the skateboard, I don't know, but anyway.
Yeah.
I will say I think our conversation, just for perspective on the staff side, I think centered more around not whether it's a good idea or not, but whether people are likely to do that and whether that ought to be on their own,
choice.
their own choices. Like, I'm not going to let my children do that.
Mhm.
Someone else may select
fair.
to do that. But the other side of that is whether you want to prohibit it by an ordinance. Obviously, the more that is allowed, the less restrictive, the enforcement is required.
Sure. No, I get it, and I'm not dead set on it. It was just I had that visual of someone skateboarding down Aldrich and was like, oh, I'm not sure that I feel like that is great. But not everything that's not great is something that necessarily requires an ordinance, and that person is less likely to cause injury to another person, unlike maybe someone going too quickly on a sidewalk. So, like I said, I'm not super passionate about it. It was just that was what gave me pause, was a person on a board in the middle of.
So,
Yeah, I don't think it's wise.
An ordinance measure that you would support would just prohibit but people have those. I mean, so it's just their own, restricted to their own driveways. I mean, what do we do with the people who have them?
On
and
their
they
own
will have them?
property, that'd be fine.
A lot of people
They-
have boats too, but they don't
Uh,
drive them on city streets.
They go
So
out to
I-
the place on 13 Highway.
They can
and
go
run
to a
around
farm,
out there.
or they can. There are public
County
parks.
roads.
County.
There are county roads.
All right, that's fine. Just
No, I-
just
I-
didn't
Two-thirds
know.
It's a good
Or-
question,
or
but
parking lot.
Leave a lane.
We're gonna be drafting an ordinance.
You'll
We wanna be
clear on 13.
clear on what is gonna be supported here.
Yep.
Just
yep.
for clarity, can
So-
we go from like the top down?
Yep.
So, like on bicycles and non-motorized, do you want them allowed on streets or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you want them allowed on sidewalks? This is what the current ordinance says. They're allowed on sidewalks except within the central business district.
Yes.
They do have to give way to pedestrians. Those things are detailed, but that's
I
what's
think that
currently what's in the
ordinance came
regulation.
about because when people were riding bikes pretty fast and somebody opened a door to a business down, downtown, and if the bike were to hit it, so they put in there.
And it's not
to
uncommon in
eliminate
other
that.
areas because you have more. You're considering that you may have more congestion there on your
I mean,
central business district.
Because I mean, you're on the square, just right on the road,
Like, for me, like, I think, as a cyclist, like, I'm not gonna ride on the sidewalk, but I have a kid.
Yep.
Sure.
And I feel that the sidewalk should be the better option for him, so, I do support
Okay.
this.
Okay, so that one's leave it
That's
as.
fine.
Okay, the next, motorized bicycles and mopeds, allowed with a valid operator's license on streets.
Yes.
Okay, prohibited on sidewalks.
Yes.
Okay, off-road vehicles allowed on streets. That's ATV, UTVs.
As long as they meet the right.
License also,
Yeah.
and don't they have to be registered to be on the street?
All they have to do is have brake lights and turn signals and headlights. Is kind of the.
Okay, so you want to add the valid operator's license required.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
I
did
do.
you want to add something else?
Just maybe just for clarity, meets state and local requirements for a motor, path on the use on the city streets.
Yeah, that does we did look at the state statutes
Yeah.
and local. So if we want them to have lights or things like that, I think we'd have to add that specifically. Is
Mhm.
what I'm saying.
I
So
think
that's all I'm just looking for is, do you want that added? They need to
Yes.
have.
We want them to
I-
have turn signals and brake lights,
Yeah.
but headlights, not unless it's after dark.
I see a lot of them riding around in the mornings. There's
Is this working?
Alderman Sawyer had a
Okay.
comment last time we were talking about
Yeah.
this, that there's been a lot of,
It was more related to the e-bikes.
Sure.
There's a lot of people I see riding them to work, so
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
be hesitant to disallow those
Sure.
at all.
Okay, so we'll get there in 1 second, right? Yeah. Off-road vehicles, prohibited on sidewalks. Everybody agrees, right? Should be simple, I think. Golf carts, we just simply said allowed. That was staff recommendation. Do you want that to change in some way?
Do we need a caveat for the parks, like what Thomas said? I mean, if
well-
we say no sidewalks, does that include no
Golf course?
parks, golf course? Like
Yeah.
Dunnigan.
Do you want to? I mean, our intention originally was just to change the title of that column to be sidewalks and parks, but this one could be changed more specifically. We just need direction. So, real quick though, first, so I can check it off. Do we want them allowed on streets? Do you want anything added additional to that language?
it seems kind of funny to me. Is
I don't
we're saying golf carts are okay, but the other.
As long as they've got brake lights and turn signals.
Sure.
I'm kind
Not
of.
every golf cart.
No.
But that shouldn't be on the road either.
You're saying if a golf cart doesn't have brake lights, they shouldn't be on the street?
Yeah.
So my issue with that is there's a lot of people that golf, but they don't house their golf cart at the golf course, and they may have to drive a couple blocks to get there. I don't see a problem that them driving there, crossing over Springfield or wherever the case they may have to, be, or Broadway to go to the golf course. I think most cities don't have an issue with that.
What about driving down Springfield Avenue?
I think that's different. I would keep this to local streets.
So we could add
Yeah, you
that.
can't. I don't think a golf cart should be on Springfield or Broadway.
The
But back in the neighborhood, and I think I would also, add lawnmowers to this category too. So
I was about to say.
we
Mine's
have
on the bottom right
several
here,
people
lawnmowers.
that make a living on a lawnmower. They don't have brake lights. I think that's being a little too restrictive.
Okay.
Okay, so would we say, because I know one of the ordinances we looked at, you basically could cross a major thoroughfare, but you couldn't travel down it. So
That's-
we could go to the
Cross Broadway.
allowed
travel
on
down.
local and collector streets, or do we, so that'd be, local streets are kind of all the little streets, but collectors would be something like Lillian, Pike.
You see it all the time on
those
Pike.
types. So do you want them to be allowed on locals and collectors, or locals only?
I think collectors are okay.
I do too.
Gonna be
Okay.
30 miles an hour max. Yeah.
I mean, maybe not after dark, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we
you
could
see
have a time
golf.
limit
You want
on
to
it.
do dusk to, or dawn to dusk?
Yeah. I think
Okay.
that would be good.
All
Are
right.
we going to categorize lawnmowers with this?
Yeah, I
this
added
one?
that.
Okay.
We'll just add lawnmowers to that category. Then prohibited on sidewalks. Everybody agree?
Sidewalks seem are wide enough for them anyway.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Well, although we might build some larger sidewalks that we don't want to tempt them. But I agree. Okay, so back to the motorized
10-foot trails, so
motorized play vehicles. What I understood from the conversation
not at all.
earlier would be that they would be prohibited unless licensed. Is that what everybody desires? Okay, registered.
Registered. With a licensed driver or no? With a licensed driver.
I would think so, just like a dirt bike. There's some dirt bikes that are road worthy.
Sorry, can we step back to the last
Yes.
one? So I'm thinking to myself, as a golfer, I mean, I see this in small communities. Like Dunnigan, is there a problem riding your golf cart through Dunnigan Park? I don't see a problem with that.
Not if you're on the main road. I
No.
wouldn't want them on the walking trail.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that, but I mean,
Yeah.
how are we considering that?
So
We
should we
consider
just?
that a-
I mean, we could just add like a caveat permitted on the Park
I would
Road.
think we need to be specific about that.
Yeah,
I
'cause
agree,
I
because
don't
you
want
have
running
people
down-
over at the inclusive park that might travel their golf cart or whatever to the golf course. So
Sure.
I don't think we need to make it only at this park or that park. I
Well,
think we.
I mean, there's a difference between a park road and a just
Yeah,
through a
sidewalk.
park. I mean, you can
Yeah.
be in the parking lot at Fullerton, or you can be in the parking lot at. So I would say anywhere that's designed for motor vehicles in that park would be fair game for a golf cart.
Okay.
And so I don't know how you put that, but otherwise I think it's gonna you run into Chief John's issue of you gotta, it takes you 3 hours to even read the ordinance that
No.
tells you what you can do.
Okay.
But I think if it's just a roadway, if it's a
Yeah.
space designed for motor vehicles, then a golf cart could be on it.
The Greenways Trail is already
So just say unless
prohibited from motor
Actually, I should
vehicles.
put that up here.
I mean, that
Yes.
that would be an easy one for somebody to just go, and I know they have with ATVs and all kinds of things,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, but it is prohibited there.
Yeah.
And the speed limit on the Frisco is 10 miles an hour.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I violated that. I know, it's like-
Running or?
Okay.
Okay, so sorry, on the golf course, then what Chief John's recommended, we could have a prohibited unless designed for that use, something of that nature.
Okay.
So in areas that it was designed for that. Okay. Motorized play vehicles. Back to that. It was I think what was brought up. What I understood was prohibited unless registered.
Is this like under 50 cc, I guess?
Is that too complicated?
The mini motorbikes
yeah.
would be.
Is that too complicated an enforcement?
We can specify that in like the definitions. That would normally be what we are calling a motorized play
Bicycle
vehicles.
says under 50 cc's. The higher one says under 50 cc's. Are you asking about this one also?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not up on all of the distinctions, so I wasn't sure if what you were talking
So
about was up
motorized
here.
play vehicle, the definition, we actually already have that definition, but it basically takes everything that isn't a motorized bicycle or moped is kind of wrapped up in that motorized play vehicle, which is kind of that blanket for whatever else they invent,
Whatever else you
tomorrow
stick a
and
motor
that
on.
kind of thing that has a motor, but
Your choice.
but leaving that differently than the actual bicycles and mopeds. Okay, so the last one on the list, then the electric bicycles, electric scooters, motorized skateboards,
Segways.
Segway types, we had allowed on streets. Do you want that?
I would rather them be on the street if they're on one of them than riding in the shoulder or
On the
trying to
sidewalk.
avoid the street. So and that's going to be an educational thing. But
I mean, I know there's a gentleman that I regularly see. He's on an e-bike. He rides on the sidewalk. He's going under 10. I can tell, but
yeah.
But on the
No,
streets
you're right.
allowed.
yeah.
Did agree? Okay. Sorry, just making sure I checked that one. But then to your point, allowed on sidewalks at the 10 mile per hour, lowering that from 15 to 10. Good for everybody. Okay.
And would
Was there something else we needed to modify this?
would motorized wheelchairs or anything like that for disability
There you go.
be something that would be covered under this section, or would it be exempted out because it's for a disability as opposed to just for other things?
My recommendation would be not to regulate such
Yeah,
a thing.
I think
But
that
That's fine. I want to make. Well, that's why I want to make sure that we're not and inadvertently.
Nothing in here is
regulating it.
intended to, in all of our definition, we can try to check that and make sure, but yeah, certainly our intent wasn't to include
Sure.
that.
So we'll bring this back and we'll work with Don and draft up some ordinances to go along with these. This might take a few times to get this right. This is a lot of information.
Item 6. Mr. Schrader, could you enlighten us, please?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Okay, in your packet, there's several handouts. The first one, you can kind of see a bird's eye view of the playground. You can kind of see there to the left, it's kind of S shape, I guess, sideways S. You can kind of see what we're thinking as far as the design of the boulders. And then out front there, you can see two boulders we'd like to put out front. The two out front, we're going to take one of those and we're going to do one of two things with that. We're going to either shave part of it back where we can actually engrave the Bill and Mary Little Inclusive Playground on that. Or another option, and the reason we're waiting is because once we get the boulders there, we'll get them ready for them to shave. They'll come out and then give us an estimate based off what they're working with, because they don't want to they want to make sure it's smooth enough for that process. The second option would be to get a bronze plate with that on there, and then we would put that on the boulder. So those are a couple options, and we'll bring that information back to you once we have our pricing on that. We've already went out and looked at the boulders, of course. Rhett and I, Thomas and James went out. We've got an idea of what boulders we want. We've got a method on how we're going to get them to the park, how we're going to get them unloaded. You can look at the pricing. There's one of the handouts. You can see for 12 boulders, it would be at $960, and that would be with us going out to get them and bring them, of course, in town. And then the last page is confirmation from our insurance company that they are good with this addition. We think it's going to be an awesome addition. The boulders, just to give you a visual, they're about 22 to 24 inches tall, not super tall. They're going to be anywhere from 30 to 40 some inches wide. We're going to put them close enough together where the kids can actually hop from one to the other. It's going to be a neat feature. Underneath the boulder, we're looking at two options. We still haven't, I guess, committed to what we're going to do there. It could be just on the grass, or it could be wood chips around those. We're still researching that and trying to come up with the best option on that. But that's kind of what we're thinking. We think it will add some beautification to the park. If you haven't seen the park lately, we've got this. We've added some signage. We put the new signage up today from Easy Living, showing that they help fund the fence. And then we've also got our rules and regulations out there as well. And then the trees. Thanks to Rhett, with this weather, they are watering every day to keep those trees going. And they are hanging on, and we want to thank him for his hard work on that. And that's not just Monday through Thursday; it's every day. They have to have water to make it. So anyway, just to give you some information about that. And then I think one of the handouts kind of showed you some pictures of the boulders We just think it will be a neat new feature to the park.
How many boulders?
Be 12 altogether, 10 inside for the kids to climb on, and then 2 out front to help with that design.
Yeah. Okay. There it is.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you. There's 12. Excuse me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I don't know if we need a vote of approval on that. I'll entertain a motion to approve that we move forward with that.
Do we need that because it's under?
It's fine. It's not gonna hurt anything.
I mean, I make a
We plan to have a vote on it.
I'd make a motion to approve.
second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? No. We are moving forward with the boulders. Here we are. Wait.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Okay. Item 7.
Okay.
Mr. Elford, would
Yes.
you enlighten us, please?
Yeah, this is a little project that Jill Way has been working on. ADA compliance with the visually impaired. It's something that's going to go in effect next year, in April of next year. And we've been working with our website designer, Civic Plus, on this. They've come to us with a pretty good proposal. It's going to cost us in the future. We know that, but they're willing to let us go ahead and sign the contract now, put it in effect, and we can budget for it next year and pay for it then in the 27 budget. So essentially, what happens is somebody who's visually impaired can go to the website and they can like hover over, like graphics or written documents, and it actually read it out loud to them. And this is mandated by DOJ. So there's no getting around it. We have to do this. So Civic Plus is coming out with a deal that we can start it now.
But it will be included in next year's budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think we can move on then.
No.
You.
If it's
We
a
can
contract,
take
we
them.
probably
Okay,
would
if
rather
you-
have the
okay,
board give me
we had
permission.
planned to vote on it. Those in favor of,
No. I'd like to discuss this.
go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
I
I'll let
just
you
was
go.
wondering if we could bid this out, or does it have to be through Civic Plus?
They're our provider, so I think it's easier just to go with them.
Is
And
there
we,
a concern that they use Google Translate and no human review on this?
Can you come to the mic, Jill?
I was just gonna say, Civic provided a single source or a sole source document for this particular item, so it wouldn't need to go to bid. I don't know about Google Translate. I'm not sure about the answer to that
Just
question.
did a little bit of research.
Yeah, I can ask about that.
Please
It's
do.
a lot of money.
It does offer a translation service itself in the program.
Right.
It says so someone could
And from what I-
translate
Okay.
any of our documents into whatever language they want to use.
Right, but
straight
from what I
through it.
understood from looking into this, they use Google Translate, and it's not human reviewed. So the reading of, the translation of, is done AI, which can make mistakes. I'm not anti-AI. I just human review is important. It just seems like an awful lot of money for something that they're letting their AI do. You know what I'm saying?
I think that a big part of it is just the fact that we aren't having to go back into the documents ourselves, like go to all of the archives, because it's every single PDF that we have loaded onto the website has to be compliant.
Right.
So they carry that burden of translating that over to something that is compliant. But I'm not sure about the Google translation issue. I can check that out. I haven't heard any complaints.
Okay. Is it horrible that I still want to look at other companies that do this?
We can. I don't know of any, but we sure can look and see.
I mean, it's not a great hurry, so if that's
Right.
what you
I
want
mean,
us to
we
do,
have
that's fine.
The reason that, I mean, it was a good deal for us to get ahead of the game and have a free year, like the remainder of this year would be free, and
Right.
it's a big project, so we kind of wanted to get started
Okay.
before we are too close to.
Further discussion? We'll take a voice vote to move ahead with the project.
No.
That's not
Uh,
what was discussed.
What?
We would like to get additional
look at
bids.
other companies also.
Well, okay. Is that the discussion then?
Well, that was my point, so if y'all wanna make a motion, make a motion.
I don't think, I mean, from what Thomas said, it doesn't sound like there's,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not asking you to scour the globe, but,
No.
you know, if we have an idea of if there are other options at a next meeting or whatever, then we can, hopefully that shouldn't be too much time lost to wait a little bit, just to make sure that this is the best option available.
So what do you wish the motion to be?
I don't think there is a motion,
There's not a motion.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
unless we need to have one. I don't know that there's.
No,
a
I don't
motion.
think there's.
I believe there are, just, but there'll be an ordinance to follow, and with, are we kind of asking for guidelines then on it?
I
Where there's no ordinance to follow until a future motion and vote.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Wait,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll come back with some more information.
we'll-
Mr. Mayor, may I make a motion that we take a 5-minute break? We have been here for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and it's looking like a lot longer.
Motion.
please go ahead. Is that a motion?
Yep.
It was. And
And all those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Board of Aldermen work session is now back in order.
Mr.
In
Mayor?
session. Yes, ma'am.
If I may make a motion real quick to amend the remaining
Yes, please.
portion of the agenda.
Yes, you may.
I move that we take number 10 and number 12 and move them to our next work session.
Any further discussion? If not, shall we take a?
I know.
Well, we just
Vote.
vote to accept. Do we have we have a motion and a second?
Mhm.
Yep.
All right. Those in favor of tabling items 10 and 12 to the next work session, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. The noes have it. We will continue on as directed. Okay. As planned. Just bring your toothbrush. Item 8. Chief Johns, could you illuminate us, please?
Yes, good evening. So the fire department and the police department have been working together on a project. A couple of things that we've already done is we've established a training site for Health and Safety Institute, which is a training organization that allows us to basically administer CPR training, AED training, first aid training, all these types of things. These are all trainings that, of course, the fire department and the police department need to maintain. By establishing our own training site and having our own instructors, we've been able to reduce the cost immensely for that type of training. So that was one of the first things we did in what is kind of a long-term plan with a lot of different phases. What we're wanting to do is increase the health and safety of our Bolivar community in a lot of different ways. And so tonight I have a particular request that we'd like to do, but I want to set the stage with just sharing a little bit of information. So one of the focuses of the request tonight has to do with opioid overdose. 2025, some statewide data from Department of Health and Senior Services. In 2024, there were 1,460 deaths for drug overdose. 910 of those were opioids. 464 were a combination of opioid and stimulant involved overdose. 2025, the numbers have been going down. There's been a huge push over the last, I don't even know, maybe 5-10 years of getting Narcan out into the public and making it readily available for everybody, free Narcan, in a lot of different avenues. And of course, public safety, first responders have all, been carrying Narcan for years, this sort of thing. So it's really good news to see that those numbers are going down a little bit. 2025, the overall overdose deaths went down to 1,163. The opioids was down about 300 or so to 678, and then the combination of opioid and stimulus went down about another 100 and some to about 329. Southwest region of Missouri, and we're one of the counties in the Southwest region by these calculations. 2024, we had 195 overdose deaths, and then 128. I'm sorry, 2024 was 195. 2025, it did go down as well, 128. I've not been able to find an opioid overdose death here inside the city limits of Bolivar, and that's good news. But in Bolivar, we do have drugs. And from 2023 to 2026, just some kind of rough calculations that we did of our police calls, we had about 105 that had drug use, drug possession as part of the call. And from 24 to 26, we've had at least 5 drug overdoses. That again, no deaths connected to opioid that we have, but we do have the potential. And so that takes us to opioid settlement funding. So for the last several years, we've been getting funding to our department, to the city, through these funding of opioid settlements. And they come from a variety of different sources, and there's different amounts that get paid out every single year, and there's kind of a combination of those. The funds for that particular settlement are very restrictive on how they can be paid for, and I know you know this because there's been many conversations over the last few years about how to pay for it. So, and again, I'm not telling you things you don't know, but I'm just quick review. We've got 2 projects that are kind of ongoing each year. One is for the Polk County Health Department Community Resource Specialist position, partially funded by this. Definitely a really great program. And then also some of the funding goes to CMH for the in-jail provider. Also fantastic program. Those are good things. The total expenditure for those each year is about $91,826. The current balance that we have at the end of this year is $225,022.23 approximately. So as it looks right now, and you've got, I think we passed out some paperwork to you, as it looks right now, just based on what it looks like the incoming money is going to be of the ones that we know for the next several years, and then with those particular expenditures, we can be status quo and keep going exactly like we're going for at least 5 more years. There might be a time where the funding that's coming in kind of goes to a point where we can't sustain, and currently right now, year per year, these 2 ongoing contracts are more than what's coming in right now. But there is an X factor, and that X factor is there's between maybe 5 and 8 additional sources of opioid settlement funds, because as you can see on that paperwork, there's many different companies that are going into the fund. Well, there's many more on the sheet in front of you that are blank, and those are some that are pending. Now, it's an X factor because we don't know when those might start. We don't know if they will, and we don't know how much, but my guess is it would be similar to the ones that you already see, and so there'd be, some would be more years or less years, some would be a little bit more per year, a little bit less per year, or real similar. So that's the X factor, and so that means that if those come in, then even just doing what we're doing now, we could potentially extend that several more years. So already we've been doing training in Narcan use for CPR AED for both police and fire. Another thing that we're wanting to also do is be real strategic and getting our training as instructors in both police and fire. We're going to train all city employees in all of our different departments with basic CPR AED as well, and the use of Narcan. And we also would like to slowly move into the community as well, and we would also start strategically. We would find areas and groups, and some of these can be some of our service organizations like CALM, Hope Safe Haven, Polk County Cares, Health Department, and others, where maybe those organizations, just because of the nature of how they help our community, they may have a slightly higher percentage of people suffering from drug addiction that might be using those services and might have a slightly higher risk of having an overdose. Being able to provide free training to all those staff members in those organizations, I think, would be a good strategic step too. And these are just, again, just part of the foundation of tonight's proposal. Those things have very little cost because we'd just be providing that training as a community outreach. Tonight's proposal is we would like to ask if you would have an interest in having PD and fire have a funding request for some of the opioid settlement funds to purchase additional AEDs for the fire department, the police department, and then also get a few for several city department locations that don't have them already across the city. Tonight's proposal request is not an ongoing large expense. It would be for this phase 1. It would be just a one-time expense. We're asking to purchase 15 AEDs. This would be enough for all on-duty patrol vehicles, updating the AEDs in some of our fire apparatus, and then adding the AEDs to some of these city locations such as Public Works, Parks Department, and others. The AEDs that we're looking at are about $2,000 a piece, so this would be a request of about $30,000. Yearly upkeep would just be for batteries, which have a 10-year lifespan, and then pads, depending on which ones we get, 3 to 4 year lifespan, something like that. If we were to do the my granny's sinking fund kind of an idea, and how much would that be per year? It'd be somewhere around $500 to $700 a year for just pads, batteries, just kind of planning ahead for upkeep. If we were to proceed with that proposal this year, we would still be able to fund the other programs until at least 2031, and then potentially with the other opioid money that's coming in, potentially far after that. And so I don't believe, bless you, I don't believe that this request is going to hamper those programs in any way. And it would also leave this year's balance at the end of the year fairly close to $195,000. And then I just want to say one more thing about AED selection. Brent and his team at the fire department has done a really good job. We've had a lot of meetings on this. He's done a really good job working and coordinating with both EMS in the area, CMH Hospital as well. One of the things that we're wanting to look at is this idea of coordination, because in an incident where we have an opioid overdose, one of the side effects of that, of course, if you don't get Narcan to them soon enough, the way that it kills you is through heart attack. Basically, it's critical heart failure, because the opioids and other drugs in the system depress the body's functions until the heart stops beating. Well, how do you save a person? You save them with CPR, and you save them with an AED. And the faster you can get CPR going and the faster you can get an AED on them increases the survivability of those types of incidents amazingly. And so when it comes to the kind of the cooperation idea, is in an incident here somewhere in Bolivar, somebody goes down, they call 911. Police are probably going to be there first, just because we're out there. We're all over the city. We'll probably get there first, but very quickly on our heels, within just a very few minutes, fire's right behind us. They're better at this stuff than we are. We're pretty good at it, but they're better than we are. So they would then take over. And then close on their heels is probably going to be the ambulance. And the ambulance, a lot of times, are better than our fire guys. Our fire guys are great, but the ambulance is probably better at that. And then, of course, getting them en route to the hospital. And then our hospital crew, of course, they've got all the stuff that they need, for life-saving at the hospital. One of the coordinating things that, again, Brent and the fire team did such a good job on is working with the hospital, working with EMS, to see if we couldn't coordinate having the exact same AEDs everywhere. And so it literally could be police are on scene and we put on the pads, we start the life-saving, fire shows up, we unplug out of our device, we plug it in theirs. EMS shows up, we plug it, unplug it, we plug it right into the one in the ambulance, and then the same thing happens at the ER. And then also, they're all the same. Everybody knows how to use every one. Of course, they're pretty easy, and most of them tell you what to do, but having that that compatibility, I think, is a really good bonus. So I'm really, really proud of the fire team for thinking that through. I think that was really clever. So that's our proposal.
Discussion from the board.
I was just gonna ask Brian, is it true that the ambulance is sometimes, the fire department better than them?
Everybody plays an essential part in life safety. I do have a couple questions. Maybe,
Go ahead,
if you
please.
don't mind. Alderman
Yes.
Ross, are you?
No, you go ahead.
I'm excited about this. Again, I will reiterate, CPR is important, oxygenation, back to the patient, all that as well. A couple questions, though, with the pads. I mean, they are kind of expensive depending on what kind of brands and all that. I know in different organizations, say the fire department responds, the ambulance responds, hey, we used our pads, most likely, hey, can I get the ones off the truck? So maybe that will save a little bit money with that, and different organizations are more willing to do that and stuff like that. My concerns are about all having the same brand. Different organizations probably use different AEDs and different pads. With the uptick in mutual aid in our area, you might not get an ambulance close by. You might get it from a different organization or county, and so
Sure.
that would be a good question to have in your guys' other meeting of, hey, this brand this company uses this brand, or this company uses that. So kind of
course.
if I agree, hey, take it off, go to yours. It's good.
Yeah, that certainly is true. We won't always be able to do that,
Sure.
depending on who. But
Yeah.
if police and fire
Yeah.
and the local CMH crew have the same stuff, a lot of times that might be the case.
Sure.
So
I want to reiterate, it is really important. I love the idea that each police vehicle will have it too. And I'm excited about the possibilities of each department having one, one at City Hall, one here. I almost want to take it a step further. I know that just in public works, there's a supervisor, and what happens if they're on a job site and one of, God forbid, doesn't happen, but what if their guy goes down? If we train the whole city, can the supervisor not have one in his truck or whatever?
We can certainly look at that as an option.
But, I think it's a great idea. I think it's, awesome that we can use this fund for that stuff. So I'm 100% supportive.
Keep in mind, we're using opioid funding,
Sure.
right? So we have to tie it back to opioid overdose.
Right. Which corrective the AD is, what Chief John said, this is part of the opioid.
I think it is,
he's
we're
talking
less
about for, like,
concerned about
staff.
our staff going down,
I'm just saying.
hopefully
If I could
that's not
too,
what's
please.
happening.
No, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying, I would like to see it go a little bit further of, hey, if we can have the accessibility for
100%. The primary use of this program is going to be for opioid overdose. Now, a very nice side effect is what's the number one killer of Americans? Heart disease. And we'll go ahead and save your life too if you're
That's the way,
dying
best way
of
to word
something
that.
else
Yeah.
with the same equipment. The equipment's there, and so we can also save lives for other causes, but specifically targeting the areas in the community and giving free training that are higher likely of having an overdose in their facilities. That's a piece of the pie. And then again, Narcan training being a part of this program and doing, we're not just doing CPR in the training and and all that, but we're incorporating Narcan use and the practice of that in cooperation with the use of these other devices. So, but yeah, it has a really nice side effect.
My last question is, with the Narcan, are you looking to supply everywhere with the Narcan as well, or is that a possibility?
Yeah, it's absolutely a possibility, and we will be there. There is so much, so many different programs with free Narcan. There's going to be zero expense to that, and we've got all the free Narcan we need.
Sure.
And
If you have one tool, why not have that other tool combined?
Absolutely,
at
and
each
it will
department
be.
or whatever.
Yes, everywhere. Yeah, including even when we give the free community training, we'll be giving Narcan out to the community as well.
So question I had, which I'm assuming the number of times we've mentioned opioids in this conversation, this would qualify for, it would qualify. I'm assuming that's
Yes,
why
sir.
we're saying that.
I would take that further. I think when I've done this in the past, I've always had Mr. Brown weigh in to make sure this is a valid expense that can be justified down the line if we're ever questioned about it. So I think Don probably needs to.
Are you
opine on
good with this, Don?
I am. I think, Chief, didn't we already talk about this, didn't we? Yeah. So
Yes, sir, we did.
It's just been a while. Yes, I was okay with it. So long as, obviously, and I think it is, the opioid prevention and remediation has to be the primary focus.
And I think that's a great point of, that's how opioids, the overdose, they, force you into having a heart attack. So your ask today is for?
The ask today is to purchase 15 AEDs for specifically the police vehicles, update the fire apparatus, and then to be able to place them in specific
cost
city buildings.
is?
And that cost was approximately $30,000.
And we have $360,035.26 in this fund.
I think at the end of this year, if I read the paperwork correctly, we'd end with, after the CMH and the Polk County Health, $225,022.
So if nobody else has any questions, I'd make a motion to approve your request.
Second. Not necessary. Do we need a second on that?
Can I just make one last comment? I'm sorry to belabor this, but we do have two other organizations that we've been for the past 2 years. We funded half a year, and this year was our first full year. That's something the board can every year through the budgetary process. We can adjust that number, right? So just because we paid $52,000 to Polk County last year, that doesn't mean that's set in stone. We can redo that contract, and that's written up that way.
But also, aren't we getting money from this, for the next
10 years?
It is, but when you spend $90,000 a year, you're going to be you're going to be flying through this pretty
Sure.
quickly.
Mhm.
So at some point, it's going to be prudent to
Well, yeah.
decrease that amount of money that we're sending to these
I
other
agree.
organizations.
I agree.
And I'm going to have that conversation with them to see if we can start reducing that amount depending on what their needs are.
So everyone's comfortable with that then?
Mm-hmm.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion has passed, and we'll let you move forward on your project. Chief Johns, thank you so very much for all your good work that you do.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. I think this will be good for Bolivar.
Mr. Alfred, we talk about overgrown grass.
Yes, sir. So we had this discussion, I think, a couple meetings ago, and the direction from the board was staff come up with a recommendation, come back to us. So I can tell you that our recommendation was going to be reducing that from 50 to 20 feet. But I got some feedback that there needed to be some more discussion from some of the aldermen. So we have not brought forth an ordinance yet. We thought the board might want to have another chance to talk about this.
A discussion from the board.
What deciding factors were there in coming up with the 20 feet suggestion?
Kyle, I mean, it's just...
What guided your thoughts?
Just a review of what seemed practical and what was maybe more generous to the property owner as well. The 50 feet seemed a little bit onerous and maybe not necessary, and so a reduction seemed reasonable, and 20 foot, especially when you're along the right of way, seemed to be a good reasonable distance. I mean, we tossed around a bunch, could be 15 foot, could be 25 feet. We landed at 20, but not with, there wasn't there wasn't high specificity on it should be this based on the width of anything in particular.
Right. So correct me if I'm wrong. You just mentioned right of way. Right of way is different than where it borders another property that's already developed. So is this for both of those
It would be
scenarios?
both. It would be the perimeter of the lot. So the entire perimeter of the lot. If that portion of the perimeter abuts that developed area and along the right
So
of
if
way.
it only has a developed property on one side, but it does have a right of way up front, you would only have to mow that one side and the right of way.
Correct. That would be that's our interpretation.
I
of it.
just wanted some clarity there. Thank you. So 20 feet is subjective. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just what you thought was a good compromise.
Yeah, just like 50 foot was, initially established.
Okay.
At the time, I think it's maybe like 8 or 9 years ago, it got changed to 50 foot because we had concern from developers or individual property owners that owned larger property, and they were being told, hey, you should mow this entire thing because it's a commercial lot. And then there was some, conversation that doesn't seem reasonable. So at that time came forward, I wasn't the planning and zoning administrator at the time, but it came forward in those types of discussions. It's not directly planning and zoning, but that role was shared at that time, and so it came forward as a code enforcement issue, and that the board at that time just selected 50 feet, probably recommended by that staff member at the time, I suspect. I don't have.
Gotcha.
So is the board comfortable with the 20 feet suggestion?
I have a couple of questions real quick.
Go ahead, please.
Just from an enforcement perspective, what is the plan for making that measurement standing where you're allowed to be standing as a code enforcement officer? Both from the street and then also from the ones that abut someone else's private property.
Yeah. I think in some instances it could be difficult, and we would be taking an estimate. So we could certainly tell the difference of 0 and 20. And so we would send the violation at 0.
Yes.
And that's the most common experience we would face.
Which is fair.
We very seldom would ever send a violation for, and even now, to be honest, practically, we aren't seeing a lot of 50, but when we see 20 to 30, we're not sending a violation on those. So it would be similar in that nature. So it's most commonly telling the difference between 0 and 20, and that's pretty easy.
I feel like you're capable
I
of doing
think we'll be able to do that.
can stand,
If it came down to some specificity, I don't think we would actually get real contentious with the property owner over, you know, I'm not
Oh,
going
we're
to probably,
not-
we're
we're
unlikely
not-
to pull a tape measure out and
Yeah,
say,
okay,
I
that's
just measured,
fine.
it's 17
We're not
feet.
taking tape measures
You owe
out.
us 3 more feet of mowing. That's not the intent of it. But I think without, you have to give some sort of,
Sure.
you know, specificity. I guess there could come a situation where
No, that's why I just
complaints are
know-
coming in such a way that we need to pull the tape measure out.
Right. No, it was just I wanted to be respectful of staff's ability to practically enforce
Yeah.
whatever we're putting in
Yeah.
in place. So thank you.
So how they would measure would be judgment call.
Yep, certainly. It's similar to how we would measure the 12-inch.
12 inches,
I
yeah.
mean, we don't run out to people's
I can
yard
tell
with a
it's
tape
4
measure.
feet, so.
But it's I was going to say it's usually the difference between 12 inches and 30 inches. So we're not usually hitting people for
It was 12 and a half inches.
for 13 inches.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
So is the board comfortable with moving forward with an ordinance, changing that to the 20 feet to?
I would like to ask the board if we would consider something more like 10 or 15 feet, which is a defined separation of field from the neighboring private property. But it would make me go around the field 2 to 3 times with a brush hog as opposed to 4 or 5.
I don't have a particularly strong opinion. We have residents that think the whole field should still be mowed, and then we have property owners that think none of it should be mowed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you're going to solve those problems whether you've gone 10 feet, 20 feet,
And I'll
50
just
feet
be
hasn't
honest,
necessarily
I
done
am one of those property owners that I don't want to mow around the edge of what I'm going to hay, because you're taking away from my hay production. But I'm willing to compromise, but I don't like losing hay.
Well, I think part of it is what is the purpose of that protection? And as we talked about the last time we talked about this, there should be, on the developed side, there should also be setbacks so that you
Right.
already have
There
some
is-
kind of a buffer. And then if you have, so that the entirety of the space does not have to be borne solely on the side of the property owner who wants to hay that property. There should be a buffer
Right.
there so that you're not having a hayfield right up to your back door. Like it just shouldn't, because
Okay,
of
so
setbacks.
I
So,
will make a suggestion of 10 feet.
Do we feel that that's provides enough visibility on roads?
oh, interesting, okay.
I'm not talking, right of way should be handled a little differently.
Okay.
Well, we could specify that
as
separately.
opposed to what abuts a neighboring property, 10 feet. What, it's 50 feet right now, really, for the right of way?
Yeah, I mean that's what's listed.
Sorry.
The staff's
I've not
bringing
been
this.
compliant.
Well, the whole reason we're bringing this is because we want our regulations to match what's practical and being enforced.
So what does it need
and
to be
all
for
that.
right away?
Counselor, is making
This
exceptions
is
for the right of way?
completely a
And
policy
a
decision,
straight
nothing
right of
legal about
way.
it.
I'm sorry, was that?
This is completely a policy decision. I will draft whatever I'm told. It could be 0, it could be 50, it could be 100.
And I mean, I'm talking about the right of ways as
Again,
exceptions.
still a policy decision for the
Okay.
board. I mean,
Alright.
obviously, you need to have good sight triangles so people
Yeah,
don't pull out. But
That's what I
You
was
already have
about to
protection of
suggest.
sight triangles. Sight triangles, if anybody's ever measured one, they're not far outside of the actual roadway often.
Right.
They don't extend very far, so that's unlikely to cause much. 10 feet would probably still cover your sight triangle in most conditions, but you may want to do something larger like 20 feet along the right of way. That would be fine. I think we could specify that in here, however.
Be fine with me.
Or
You could be-
15 foot on the right of way, 10 foot along.
I'm not.
Whatever.
That's fine. I just
So is the suggestion to, for abutting, lot abutments 10 feet and,
Improved.
and
Development,
right of way, clearance
Let's just make them the same.
20?
10 or 15, y'all choose.
We need,
All the way around.
we need some clarity on this.
Is 10 enough on the right of way?
I mean, I think Don pointed out, I mean, it's really a preference
No, it's
thing.
fine. I'm just,
I mean, it's,
I like the simplicity of it, if for telling
Yeah.
people
Like
what
a
the
one
rule, like,
number
like
And
it's just
I
10.
hate
I'm
to
asking
say it
from a
because
safety
I mean
perspective.
I have a particular individual in mind that I know will be discouraged to hear it was moved from 50 to 20, and if it moved from like they're not. So I'm thinking of
Oh, no,
individual,
we
and then
know
on the other
someone's gonna
side,
be
I know
mad.
there's going to
That's
be
fine.
people that
We're
are
never gonna
wanting it to
please
be
everyone.
zero. Well, exactly. So my point is, I don't care what
No.
you decide.
I
It
was sorry.
doesn't-
I was asking just from a sight triangle safety perspective along the roadway. If we would be running into that, if you thought based on a 10-foot.
If it wasn't, we have other site triangle regulations that we
Perfect.
could say cut your grass in the site triangle.
Okay, so
So if nobody
that would
objects,
not,
can we give the big nod to 10 foot?
Yes.
so that would not cause a
Yes, with a
potential
5-foot
problem
threshold.
with site clearance. I mean, we already have those.
We have site triangle regulations that we could enforce separately if there was a condition that it did.
So is the consensus 10 feet?
Sure.
Sure.
All right. I don't think we need a vote. I think we just need to
No,
work
That way they can
just
come back
need
with
a
the draft.
guidance.
Yep.
on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we have tabled 10. And now to 11 about the sidewalk code changes. We've suggested just a board discussion. What are the issues that need to be discussed? Mr. Ross, do you have something that you were talking
I
about?
always have something, especially with sidewalks. We've talked about it, and I wouldn't mind going a little bit further in depth than the sidewalk code changes and things like that. With as far as the responsibility, who pays to put them in. I would like to put something in there, kind of like what we do with the roads, and spend X amount of money every so often to put sidewalks in and redo sidewalks. I know that's not in the code. I think Alderman Price has some code thoughts, which she's brought up in a couple of the other meetings about like the petitions and things like that. Which
And there's a couple of other things too, but let's
as far as the
cover
petition.
that.
Have liability issues entered into those conversations as well?
I mean,
Liability issues haven't entered into the conversation of, which one was
so,
it?
as far as like who builds the sidewalks or
Who owns the
who owns
sidewalks?
the sidewalks. I mean, I think the city kind of.
At the current regulations, it's the responsibility of the property
Yeah.
owner that abuts the right
Unless
of
the
way.
city built it before or after June 1st
In the
03?
existing, but not in what's recommended here.
Why
That's
why
clarified.
was that taken out?
Why was it taken out? Because I don't think the city wants to bear that liability. I think that the sidewalks, I don't know why it was ever put in. I would have advised against it.
I think we're discussing maybe the city taking on that responsibility, so.
I thought I understood taking on the responsibility, meaning the budgeting and the planning and the constructing.
Sure.
I would not recommend the city take on the whatever would be
Maintenance and
implied
repair?
by the maintenance or the long-term liability responsibility of a
So,
sidewalk.
like for example, we just put a sidewalk in on the square.
Mhm.
We did the work, but the business owner is now responsible for if something were to happen to that sidewalk.
They would be responsible for the ongoing maintenance. Unless the city, what I'm saying is, the reason, in my opinion, why you would have that position is that the board can always step in and decide to, say it becomes in disrepair in 10 years, you can replace it again if you want. But that's different than there being regulations that demand something of you. And really that was kind of the intent of this from the beginning, was to remove shall clauses with may clauses and take away any sort of implied liability or responsibility.
My thoughts on sidewalks, and I think we've had this conversation for a few years now, is I think the city should, again, budget like we do with roads and say, because I think, I don't know how much a sidewalk costs to build. Shocker, I'm not an expert on that. But I think one time we threw around like to put a sidewalk in front of a house is like $3,000 would be what the homeowner, and so, hey, let's set aside some budget. I mean, obviously a much smaller portion than we do with the roads, but I feel like you know, the city maintains and upgrades the roads because that's for the, you know, the health of the community. I think sidewalks are,
We do
just as vital as.
So we are doing that in our normal budgeting,
Sure.
both like projects like the square, but also, I mean, you know, with our TAP project, we put $100,000 of streets
Sure.
funds towards the construction of a new sidewalk.
Like with those, that's like on Spring. I'm talking more like I know we just did one on Lillian.
Yeah, 2 years ago or
Yeah,
year and a half.
different thing. I would
One
like
on
to
Boston
see.
before that, to Aldi.
Yeah, we just did a portion this year on Clark. I mean, we are doing that, but I will say those big ticket ones, obviously when we have grant opportunities, we're going to keep pursuing those because we
100%,
have.
But I'm saying, you know, like for example, you go down Locust and there's sidewalks that are buried or weren't there.
Yeah.
Like, hey, maybe the city puts together, just like you do with roads. You know, you go out and you give the roads a grade, and you
Yeah.
say, these are the ones that are immediate need, and then we say, yep, you know, hey, let's get those 10 replaced this year or fixed or whatever it is, and then next year you come back and say, hey, let's do 10 or 20 more. I would like to see something tangible with sidewalks like we have with roads.
I think part of the difficulty might be that, and I don't know if it's changed, but when we started talking about this at Planning and Zoning Commission years ago, I think that is what is happening. The ones you're talking about haven't made the cut yet. So it was getting, like, I just remember the discussion around the one on Boston where it was talking about the importance of the traffic, the foot traffic, people being able to get to Aldi, and then the Lillian one. And so I think
So
that
the
we
last
are
3
spending.
years, we've had a list of 20 roads.
Yes.
That we're repaving. I have yet to see a list of.
Well, it's
20
repaving
sidewalks.
as opposed to
20
building.
sidewalks that were well, not even necessarily build. Let's repair the ones that we have that are, you know, I mean, they're, and we've probably all ran into it because I know a lot of us have probably walked door to door, and there, I mean, we have some spots in town where the sidewalks, like, they've sunk in so much, it's almost like that part is vertical, and it's like,
Right.
yeah, and so.
We also got, Clark just got done.
Do what?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think I understand your point. Like a list that you could see. I mean, I think the other point to me is that has been going on as far as like the presentation of like it in the same manner. We can modify how that's presented, and I would also be happy if aldermen want to make suggestions within their ward or whatever of, hey, these are more higher priority, you think? Because part of it is not even just the worst, but also looking at like the volume of the foot traffic. That was like Lillian was kind of prioritized. And then, you're looking at Clark. Okay, we're right by the park. So we're trying to do some of that, but I'd welcome, I have no problem with us making a list.
Yeah.
I'd love it if that's partly driven by, the aldermen, I would say.
That helps a lot, because I was thinking, like, the money's being spent, but you're saying, I want to see a list,
Yes.
not that there's the
I want to
budget.
see progress on paper because
What projects were considered and which projects actually made the cut.
And, and my thing is, moving forward, like the new codes we have, if you build a new house, you put a sidewalk in with it. So hopefully we get to where if there's any growth in the community, we don't have to worry about that because that's being put in. But I think we need to get the sidewalks caught up to where, at least you're not stumbling and tripping and or having, like, for example, I will tell you one in Ward 2, Market Street. Like, we have a cut through to the park in that neighborhood up off Market that, you drive down Market Street any time of the day, there's 2 or 3 people, walking down, and it's one of those, but there's no sidewalks on either side, no place for them to go. And so we have a nice cut through to the park where, there's tons of neighborhoods, people will walk down Market to get to the park, but there's no place for them to, safely walk. So just things like that I think could better as far as that goes. So yeah.
I would like to see, like, Dusty's talking about a budget. I would like to see how much we budget each year, or like have an annual budget to do this, and then have some of it contribute to sidewalk repair, and some of it contribute to new. Because I think increasing the connectivity in the city limits is going to make us more appealing and more accessible.
When we talked about this issue many years ago, when Jerry Hamby was in charge of the streets, what we were told at the time, and I don't know if the department has shifted enough in its personnel, was the limiting factor was the manpower. So we could set aside, and I think at the time, I want to say it was like 25, 30 grand a year that they would set aside to do in sidewalks. And the issue was not, we could set aside more, but the guys were going from project to project to project to project. And so more than that, we could not do unless we had more people. So just be aware. I don't know what the number currently, if there is an average number every year how that's working, because I know that's what it was for several years in a row, where it was like 20, 30 every year. But I thought that was a very helpful reminder to me that it was like, it's not just a matter of throwing more money at it. We've got only so many guys and they only have so many hours in a day, and we ask them to do a lot of things. So.
Yeah, and that's why we've also tried to pursue grants so we can build sidewalks internally and build sidewalks through contractors. So, in the next 5 years, we'll have probably averaged around $150,000 a year towards sidewalks. I mean, that can be laid out.
Total in the 5 years?
No, per year.
Oh, okay.
So per year. So we're gonna. That's what we're gonna average when we finish our tap.
But
so some of that money we've spent.
Avenue,
yeah, but
which is expensive
and then
sidewalk,
we've had smaller projects like Clark or Lillian or the downtown. I mean, so those are going to be peppered in between the larger grant projects. So, but I understand your point is like you want to see that in a different format. That's not really a problem. I would love to see recommendations of what you want to see on that list.
That's how we did it with the streets. You would come and you give us the recommendations if these are the ones we think, and we can throw out like, well, we think this one or that one. So yeah, I mean,
and we have an active transportation plan. If people haven't reviewed that recently, we did some sidewalk inventories.
Don't think like, hey, don't look at grants. Like grants are great. Like get as many grants for sidewalks as you can, like the TAP grant, all that stuff. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Further discussion?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the
main original. I'll let that go first. The petitioning, which is in the 1.5. I'm still not a fan. I think it is a low bar for a citizen to sign a piece of paper and say, here you go. They have no skin in the game. I'll sign a petition if somebody comes to my door just to make them go away.
Thanks.
I do think.
Well, he did come to my door.
Whatever the board ultimately wants to do.
I think if someone is serious enough to sign that petition, they should have been serious enough to come up here and explain to us, hey, this is what we really want. So I would like to see the citizenry petition, the groupthink petition go away.
Thank you.
I think that's fair. I think I'd be fine with that. I think another thing would be like
which the version you're seeing in the packet was not the most recent recommended change. That's the existing, the 10 citizens thing you're seeing in the packet.
10 citizens should go away. They can each individually come to City Hall and say, hey, I'd like to see X, Y, Z.
Because we were changing from shall to may.
Well, and the 10 citizens went away in the new recommendation, and it was 50%, a minimum of 50% of property owners along the way.
Right.
I don't care what the board ultimately does, but I will say, if there's no process, if an individual can, I don't see how that actually raises the threshold. If we have a process, if we codify a process that says you must acquire, again, I don't care ultimately what the board does, but if you codify a process that says you must acquire a minimum of 50% of property owners along whatever corridor you want to ask for a sidewalk, that's a threshold to meet. If you say the threshold is just come to the board, I would say that's a lower threshold to meet. Over here you have a minimum.
One person,
It's
one
just,
person.
I'm just saying it's to me, it's a lower threshold. I don't care ultimately, but one is a codified threshold that you as a board member would be able to say, if you would like the sidewalk, here's a process by which you can request it. Again, they're still just requesting it.
Citizens' problem though, because they're gonna be the one going around with the petition
Yeah.
going, hey,
But-
did you notice so-and-so sidewalk? We need to get that taken care of.
But they would be,
Sign it.
but they would be signing as a participant. They're an owner. They would also be financially responsible for the construction of the sidewalk. That's what they would be signing. They would be signing.
About the homeowner that they.
Well, that's
want
what the new,
sidewalk done. No,
the new
50%
regulation was
of the
50%
neighbors.
of the corridor.
corridor.
So
That's
they're
their
part of the
neighbors.
corridor.
The corridor.
Yeah, but so if you have a block, if you have a
one
block,
person, then that owner is the person who would have to sign it because they own 100%
Yes.
of the
So
corridor.
the way I read it, and I guess I may be wrong, correct me. those 10 citizens could make one, say the sidewalk's only bad in front of Justin's house.
No, then they would not be.
Or
It would be.
Justin's house is the only one missing a sidewalk. We
No,
want to put in there.
I mean, the
Here's
way
the petition, make them do it.
the way I understand it was
this,
written
but
is
yeah.
it would be like this: you have a block to block. You got 10 houses
Uh-huh.
on this corridor. At least 5 of those property owners who are going to equally be responsible for the portion of their cost. A minimum of 5 of them would have to sign a petition before they can even come to try to compel you to compel the other 5 to also pay for their portion.
So it wouldn't be, I have a sidewalk, you don't.
It would be
we all don't have sidewalks.
10 houses
Yes.
on that block.
Or whatever
5
corridor.
of
The
you
corridor
come
could be
up and
500
say,
feet.
We
you
want
know.
all of us to have to get it.
Yes.
Because you're looking for connectivity. So the motivation, if there is one there, would be a neighborhood saying, we really want a sidewalk like you just described, on Market. We want a sidewalk from, whatever street to this street. So we're going to petition and find at least 50% of these owners who also are saying to the city, we buy into this idea. So they come to you and they say, hey, we've got at least half of the people that want to spend their money on building a sidewalk. Will you compel the other half to spend their money on building a sidewalk so that we can have a full corridor connection? Instead of them just individually saying, well, I'll build mine, it makes sense that they would say, well, I'll only build mine if I know that I'm going to make it all the way to the next street or whatever happens to be that corridor.
So they're not just signing a petition.
That
Yeah. So they're not just
Thank
signing
you
a
for the
petition because
correction.
someone came to their door. They're signing a petition saying we are ready to put in a financial.
Yeah, they're saying we're for this. Yeah, if it costs me
I
$3,000, but at
misunderstood
least
how
I'd get a sidewalk all the way to
Yeah. Well, because the way it is
XYZ
now,
street.
right? We could just weaponize. Like I could be like, "Hey, 10 of us don't like so and so. Let's
Yes.
sign a petition and make him put a sidewalk in front
The
of his
current
house."
certainly needs to change.
That's the current version. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way it is right now.
Okay, so we could.
And 8 friends.
Okay, so there you go. And .040, the defective sidewalks, the condemnation, same thing with the petition. Is that in the new proposed ordinance?
I don't have that part in front of me. But the previous recommendation just changed the definitions of those.
On 040?
But it didn't have the, I need to
Not
see
the definitions, the 04, I don't have the whole ordinance here either, I just have my notes. It tied in with that, it was basically the same thing, but it was on defective sidewalks.
I'd have to look back at that. I don't.
Okay, so you understand what I'm looking for
Do
though?
you have it from the previous copy?
No, I just have what the current,
It's the.
I can pull it up.
Proposed,
It's the.
which would be in
Where are
the
we proceeding on
June
that?
28th
Yeah, it was.
packet.
Where are we on that process? Because I what I remember is the proposed changes that you had worked on with staff,
Uh-huh.
and then I think had said, can we kick it back to?
Right, we're kicking it back to just tweak it and then
Right.
let
Did-
staff finish it and bring it back.
Yeah. I mean, the step was, we brought it forward first as an ordinance, then it was recommended, hey, staff, we'd actually rather see this as like an underlined cross-through.
Yes.
And then we did that.
Okay, because I know I've missed a couple of
Yeah,
meetings
so we
this
did
summer,
that,
so,
we
okay.
had that meeting.
So you have a draft that's like what everybody was on board with at that
Yes,
meeting.
at that meeting.
Awesome.
Then we
tweaking-
came to the last meeting with the ordinance, and there was just concern about this section.
This piece.
At that,
Okay.
at that part.
Thank you
So-
very much.
There were some sections that were left out of the new revision, the one you're proposing, and I just wondered why they got left out. There's 4 different.
I think what we need is another red line approach.
No, I just
from
wondered why. Those were my last questions.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Why,
if
and
I
then
don't have
was
it right,
walking
the
away.
2 of them in front of me, I'm not going to be able to answer the question.
Sure.
I just don't recall the
Okay.
why. I mean, it was all part of that
The
process. I'd have to go back and
gist
watch it.
.025 is a process for serving notice when the owner is unknown or non-resident.
The draft
I'm
from
just
last
wondering
time.
why it was left off.
Were there no changes proposed to it?
It's not in
take
the
it up there
new
if you want.
proposed chapter.
But is the new proposed just the stuff that was changed?
Good question.
So
it?
is maybe anything that wasn't changed not included, and so the things you're not seeing in there are just the ones
And
that,
I'm assuming it's repealed when what it is it's just not changed.
that would be,
Yeah.
that would be my question,
I-
is if it was just not included because there wasn't
I
any
think-
changes made to it.
So last meeting, we had a draft of an ordinance ready to adopt. We had this question. I think what we actually need to do is just go back to the meeting before, go back to the underline and read through, that was the time to have all these like questions and conversations. So I think we got to like go back to that, because if we're not looking at the two together, there's going to be just a lot of confusion, I
Well,
think.
I think-
So
Oh, I don't
I
have
don't
any
disagree.
confusion anymore. I just wanted to know why these 4 were missing, and then I was gonna
Right, and
walk
that
away
question,
say,
I
I'm
think,
good with this.
I think that question potentially, I mean, I don't care if we go back to it or not, but that question of when you produced a document that say, there's the new proposed ordinance. If something was not part of that, was it because it wasn't being changed?
It
Or
was
because it was
because-
being removed?
yes, in that previous meeting, when we did the side by side
Uh-huh.
with a line strike through, there were portions that were strike through. But
Okay.
since I'm not looking at
You
that
don't know. So
document,
some of them
I don't know
were
which-
potentially- okay,
Yeah, I don't
okay,
know which
that's fine.
part. So
I'm
that's
good
what
with
I'm
it.
saying is
We're good. Big nod.
But yes, get rid of just remove the
Yeah, that's
petition,
fine.
other than whatever you guys had previously agreed on as far as the half of the property owners or whatever.
There you go.
And you could still deal with that person, the one person sidewalk, by coming to City Hall and saying, hey, there's this
I
terrible
think
sidewalk.
what we're saying is we're going back to the one that was recommended last meeting.
Petition threshold.
It had the petition threshold. Okay.
Sounds right.
That's
Because they
probably
had
the
skin in the
easiest.
game.
Okay.
All right. Do you feel
I didn't
sufficiently,
understand that.
Don knows, and he's got
the Okay.
ordinance for us to go.
are we sufficiently clear on how we're going to move forward?
Alderman Collins.
Okay, we're satisfied with it.
Alderman Collins.
Okay. We have tabled number 12. Alderman comments, and Alderman Ross has requested to speak.
Yeah, just real quick, give a shout out to the Methodist Church. They did the back to school extravaganza on Saturday. Lots of volunteers were there. The Methodist Church is the one that organized it. Kathy Drake. I think they said they gave over 750 backpacks full of supplies out. I know Shane was there. I was there volunteering. It's probably one of the most well-oiled machines that I've ever been a part of. Everything is the science, and I'm convinced if you want something done, the ladies from the Methodist Church could probably do it and do it very, better than most others. So just thanks to them and the community. That's a big help. So.
Someone else have a comment?
I had a comment
ahead,
question.
please.
I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they were expressing concern about the traffic across Broadway around the rec center, the library, especially with the summer with the pool. A lot of kids from the north side who are potentially wanting to come, and parents have to be involved in order to get them safely to the rec center
Yeah.
when they might be old enough that they could just go by themselves. Same with the library. And then the flip of that is we have a laundromat over in that business center there. And so you have people who are trying to get to the laundromat. So you have a couple different sources of foot traffic. I know it's not ours. I know it's a MoDOT road, but I didn't know if there's any feasibility of any kind of crosswalk there like what we have by Woods, if that's something we've ever asked about before, if it's something that we could explore. But it seemed like another pressure point where it'd be helpful to have people have a safe way, because there is not another way to cross.
I've seen some 6-year-old kids crossing, holding my breath.
Yep. So just something that if it's something we could do, might be worth looking into.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we can inquire with MoDOT.
Mr. Relford, we have come to the number 14. Is there an item of immediacy that needs to be discussed in such, or can we adjourn?
I have no idea.
I don't know what's on it.
I don't know what it is.
We don't know what's on it.
Let's just do it and get it over
We're
with.
not told what's on.
There's only one thing,
We're doing-
one thing on there, so let's just do it. Let's
Do
just
it.
get it over with quick.
Okay, entertaining a motion for a closed session.
I move we go into closed session pursuant to RSMO 610.021 subparagraph 1, legal actions, cause of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communications between a public governmental body or its representatives and its attorney.
Second, okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Ballard. Ross.
Aye.
Sagister.
Aye.
Rains.
Aye.
Okay, with 8 ayes, we have entered closed session. Let's please make it quick.